Will the meeting please come to order? Today is Tuesday, September 17th, 2024. This is the 23rd regular meeting of the current term of the Metropolitan Council of Nashville and Davidson County. Will all members of the public and the council please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation is being offered this evening by Mr. Rashid Fakhruddin. Mr. Fakhruddin is the Director of Community Partnerships at the Islamic Center of Nashville and is the guest of District 18 Council Member Tom Cash. Go ahead, please, sir.
To Vice Mayor Angie Henderson and to our distinguished council members and guests, I would like to convey to you the greetings of peace, or Assalamu alaikum, may God's peace be with you. I'm honored to be invited by Councilman Tom Cash, who is our amazing representative at the Islamic Center of Nashville on 12 South, to share with you this prayer. As next week is United Against Hate Week, my prayer will be centered around this theme. And please try to join some of the events, whether YWCA or Council Member Suara and Representative Upton Ben next Tuesday for their call to action. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Dear God, we thank you for the countless blessings you have bestowed upon us. As United Against Hate Week is a call for local civic action to stop the hate and implicit biases that are a dangerous threat to the safety and civility of our neighborhoods, towns, and cities. Dear God, we pray that you instill the characteristics that foster a city with a culture of love, compassion, care, unity, everything opposite of hate, pride, arrogance, and we consistently are on the guard against all sorts of hatred, eliminate its seeds, and stand united against it so it has no room for growth nor cultivation. We have a teaching where the Prophet Muhammad said, "You will not enter paradise until you love one another." And then he mentioned how spreading peace will bring about that love. Dear God, let our leaders and citizens show love and compassion for all and protect the dignity of every human being while being vigilant and challenging the slightest traces of bigotry, racism, misogyny, xenophobia, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, homophobia, and so on, making sure we work towards creating a culture of respect and dignity for all, both socially and emotionally, especially for our kids. Let us also dig deep and examine our own biases while making sure we challenge hateful statements no matter where they come from, workplace, places of worship, schools, etc., and even inside our households. Let our leaders and its citizens be proactive in eliminating hatred on every level by building relationships with our neighbors. With hope, our city of Nashville can be a beacon for others to follow. In 2006, many organizations, including ours, joined this Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee to sign off on the power of Nashville. I will end this prayer by reading the call for Nashvillians. We must be catalysts for unity. We resolve that if fate leads someone to Nashville, we will embrace them as our own. We resolve that if someone speaks ill of our neighbors, we will remind them that this is not our way. We resolve to challenge ill-informed or hateful speech before it becomes reality. We resolve to proclaim our own immigrant ancestry and celebrate this shared heritage. We resolve that where there is conflict, we will resolve it peacefully. No matter what the rest of the world may say or do, let us remember one thing: we are Nashville. Dear God, please instill this culture for us as a city and become a beacon of inclusivity, compassion, civility, while standing up and eradicating hatred from our city. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now you may be seated. Thank you, Mr. Fakhruddin. Thank you. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month, council members in Nashville. Also, happy National Library Card Sign-Up Month, and a special thank you again to the Nashville Public Library for joining us on our mezzanine today, this afternoon, to share all the amazing things that Nashvillians can access with their library cards. Members, if you will please continue to encourage your constituents to sign up for their free card online or at their nearest branch library. With over 700,000 folks residing in Davidson County, some 300,000 of them have a library card, which is pretty awesome, but we also want that number to be 700,000. So I also want to acknowledge members of Cub Scout Pack 40, led by Mr. Chad Crow, that they are joining us this evening. So welcome to those 4th and 5th graders. And it is also National Voter Registration Day. So the last day to register to vote in Davidson County for the November 5th election is October the 7th. As of the August 2024 election, there were 507,000 registered voters in Davidson County. That's up from August of 2023 when there were 496,000 registered voters. And we want to make sure that everyone who is eligible to vote is registered and can participate in the upcoming election. As a parent of a college-age child, and because I get questions about this quite a lot for parents of college-age children, if your child registered at an in-person event at their high school or have already voted in a local election, say this past May or August, they can request an absentee ballot and should do so now. If, however, they registered online and have not or have yet to vote in person, they will need to vote early in person or on election day in Davidson County. So call or follow our election commission for assistance and information. Okay, also regarding the Tuesday, November 5th election, which falls on what would be a regular meeting of the council. Per council rules of procedure and the charter, and exactly as we did back in May, I will be calling the meeting instead on Thursday, November the 7th. Okay. Monday committees will shift to Wednesday, November the 6th, and Tuesday committees will shift to the Thursday prior to the council meeting. So please make a note, and the council office will have a communication out to the public later this week. Okay, lastly, but certainly not least, today is Constitution Day, which commemorates the signing of the U.S. Constitution on September 17th in 1787 in Philadelphia. And almost 1 year ago, council members, myself, the mayor, took our oaths of office in which we vowed to support the Constitution of the United States. We vowed to faithfully, impartially, and with fidelity discharge the duties of the Metropolitan Council without fear or favor and for the public welfare. This is sadly a time in the United States when distrust in government and elections and in our fellow Americans is being sowed for political purposes. People in elected office or seeking it are fear-mongering and lying. And I want all Nashvillians to hear from me as president of this council that it is my expectation that no member of this body will ever lie to the people of Nashville. It is a privilege for us to serve our city. We take it seriously. I know we all do. And we will honor our vow of public service and always endeavor to inform you in a way that is both helpful and truthful. So now on to our agenda. Okay, without objection, we will suspend the calling of the roll and ask the clerk to record the names of the members present throughout the meeting. Is there a motion for approval of the minutes of September 3rd? And seconded. Okay, properly seconded. Without objection, the minutes of the meeting of September 3rd are approved. Yes, Ms. Lee, go ahead, ma'am.
Sorry, I can't push you on there. Up on my screen.
Okay.
But I actually would like a point of personal privilege,
Yes, ma'am.
if I may. I would like to take this time to thank everybody so much for last month, all of the texts that I got, all of the gifts that I got, all of the supportive messages that I got. Thank you for the proclamation from the mayor. Everything for during the time of the death of my mom. I know some of you have been through some of the same thing, so that you know, even if it's just happened some weeks ago or if it's happened some years ago, your mom or your dad, that's something that's going to stay with you. So I just want to let you all know that all of your sentiments were very, very much appreciated. I love you all for taking out the time to send me the things, all of the things that you did, and to think about me. I just want to say life is so fragile. So I want to say God bless all of you. I hope you take care of your stuff and whatever you have to do. And I hope you will be safe and you won't have to go through this at this time, but we're all going to go through it. But God bless all of you, and thank you so very much. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. We are very, very sorry for your loss. And I appreciate members and our Sunshine Committee supporting council members when they go through difficult things in their life. So thank you to everybody in the body for joining together in support of our members when they have a loss or a major hurdle. So thank you. Mr. Clerk, are there any messages from the mayor? I didn't turn on your mic, Mr. Clerk, but I heard you say there are no messages from the mayor. Thank you, sir. Okay. All right. First on our agenda this evening, item E1 is the election of a president pro tem for this council. This is for a one-year term. Candidates sent their letters of qualification to the body. And so with that, we will just move straight to the vote. The nominees are Councilmember Russ Bradford and Councilmember Sandra Sepulveda. Mr. Clerk, would you please open the machine? Okay, all votes are in. Mr. Clerk, please show the vote. Council has elected Councilmember Sandra Sepulveda. Congratulations, council member. And I also want to thank Councilmember Bradford for his willingness to serve and to put himself forward. With this election, Ms. Sepulveda is now in a position of leadership and a member of our executive committee. Want to express again my appreciation to Councilwoman Suara for her year of service and look forward to serving with you, Ms. Sepulveda. Thank you. Okay. Next, members, we're moving into section F of our agenda, continued elections. These are election first for the Property Standards Appeal Board. Consideration of nominees to fill one vacancy for a term expiring August 6th. With an election to be held today. Chair Prep T, please, for your report, sir.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. The Rules, Confirmations, and Public Elections Committee considered the nominees to fill one vacancy with a term expiring on August 6, 2028 for the Property Standards and Appeals Board. We considered the appointment of John Bennett by Councilmember Jordan Huffman, as well as Quinta Martin by Councilmember Quante Toombs and Jayla Thomas by Councilmember Jennifer Webb, and voted all 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Prep T. Okay, Ms. Webb, yeah, ITS, I think we're having some trouble with our tablets because I don't show. Oh, okay. When we are in election mode, that doesn't work. So if you do have, so that's news to me. So members, if you are ever here at the start of our meeting and our tablets are in election mode, if you have a point of personal privilege or a question, if you would please just rise to be acknowledged. So do you have, is it a point of order? Okay, you're recognized, Ms. Webb.
I'm withdrawing Jayla Thomas.
Okay. Mr. Clerk, can you please make that so noted? Okay. So members will take just a little bit more time to get the vote. Okay. Okay. So Mr. Clerk tells us that the vote is ready. So Mr. Clerk, if you would please open the vote, and members, please proceed to vote for the one vacancy on the Property Standards and Appeals Board, please. Okay, with all votes in, Mr. Clerk, please show the vote. Council has elected Quinta Martin. Ms. Martin, are you present? Thank you, Ms. Martin. We appreciate your willingness to serve. Okay, on to our next election, item F2. This is for the Short-Term Rentals Appeal Board. Nominations were taken previously, and Chair Prep T, your report, please.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. The Rules Confirmation and Public Elections Committee considered considered nominees to fill one vacancy with a term expiring on August 10th, 2028 to the Short-Term Rentals Appeal Board. And we considered the nomination of Matt Ingram by Councilmember Aaron Evans, as well as nomination of Ramon Simmons by Councilmember Terry Vo, and voted for both 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, thank you for that report. Mr. Clerk, would you please open the machines for the vote regarding the Short-Term Rentals Appeal Board? With all votes in, Mr. Clerk, would you please show the vote? Okay, Council has elected Ramon Simmons. Mr. Simmons, are you present this evening? Hello, sir. Thank you. Congratulations. We appreciate your willingness to serve. Thank you. Okay. Next, we're moving into section G of our agenda, appointees and nominees. This portion of the agenda shares all persons that were scheduled to appear before the Rules, Confirmations, and Public Elections Committee this evening. Referrals back to the committee will be by rule as part of the council's two-meeting process for all elections and confirmations. No votes will be taken by the body in this section of the agenda other than for deferrals. Chair Prep T, committee report, please. First for any withdrawals or deferrals, if there are any, sir.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. The Rules, Confirmation, and Public Elections Committee considered the Auditorium Commission reappointment of Jerry Pentecost for a term expiring on June 30th, 2027, and had no recommendations, and as such move for a one-meeting deferral.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, properly moved and seconded. All in favor of one meeting deferral for Mr. Pentecost, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that is deferred one meeting. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Prepty, with the rest of your items, please.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. The committee also considered the Civil Service Commission appointment of Jason T. Evans for a term expiring on March 31st, 2025, as well as the Property Standards and Appeals Board appointment of Daniel B. DePriest for a term expiring on July 27th, 2028, and voted 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting, and 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting, respectively.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Pardon? Yeah, okay. And as stated, those are re-referred to committee by rule. And we've got a lot of extra stuff in this section this evening. So I am just a little bit. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, so those are re-referred for consideration on October the 1st. Okay, now, council members, without objection, so we've concluded section G of our agenda. Next normally would be H for our confirmations, but without objection, so that we are keeping all our board and commission matters in good order, I would ask the council to consider suspending Rule 31, which is regarding the order of our meeting, to pull resolution, agenda item 9, resolution 2024-712, forward on the agenda for consideration. Is there any objection to the suspension of the rules to pull this item forward? Okay, seeing none, the rules are suspended, and we will now take up agenda item 9, resolution 2024-712. This is a resolution modifying the requirements for a seat on the Board of Trustees of the Hospital Authority of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, sponsored by Councilwoman Sepulveda. Ms. Sepulveda, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports.
Okay, Chair Prep T, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. The Public Health and the Rules, Confirmation, and Public Elections Committee considered RS 2024-712 and voted 5 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay. Chair Evans for the report of Public Health and Safety, please, ma'am.
Thank you. Public Health and Safety recommended approval, 7 in favor, 0 against, 1 not voting.
Okay. All righty. Okay, so Ms. Sepulveda, it is back to you for a motion on this resolution, please, ma'am.
Move for approval with a brief comment.
Go ahead. Is there a second? Okay, go ahead.
So colleagues, this resolution amends the membership of the Hospital Authority Board, and it removes the requirement that one of the doctors have training in psychiatric medicine, and instead requires that one member of the board have experience in the field of psychiatric medicine or psychology. And with that, I would renew my motion.
Okay. Is there any discussion on this resolution? Okay. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay. You have adopted that resolution. Okay. With that, So we are still in proper order here. We are moving into section H regarding confirmations. And Chair Prep T, you are recognized again for your committee report on the appointees in the second step of your committee's two-meeting process. First for deferrals, if there are any, please.
There are no deferrals.
Okay, thank you, sir. So next for the persons who will have received perhaps a unanimous vote of recommendation by the committee and potentially a consolidated motion for those same appointees.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. The committee considered the Agricultural Extension Board appointment of Jeffrey Easel for a term expiring on August 13th, 2027, as well as the Board of Health appointment of Morgan McDonald for a term expiring on November 1st, 2027. Hospital Authority Board appointment of Dr. Ari Nettles for a term expiring on July 11th, 2029. Metropolitan Development and Housing Agency Board appointment of Brittany Campagna for a term expiring on November 5th, 2028. Metropolitan Development and Housing Agency Board appointment of Colby Sledge for a term expiring on January 5th, 2027. Social Service Commission appointment of Charlotte Peacock for a term expiring on July 20th, 2029. And the Storm Management Commission appointment of Fiona Abbott for a term expiring on July 8th, 2025. And with that, I move approval.
Okay, Chair Prep T,
sorry.
having heard his reports, has moved a consolidated motion of confirmation. And is any member, is there a second for that motion? Okay, Chair Prep T, go
Sorry,
ahead,
Madam
sir.
Vice Mayor, we voted 7 in favor, 0 against. You're not voting on all of them.
Okay, yes, thank you, sir. Thank you. I appreciate the clarification. So with that, we can consolidate those. But is any member seeking to be recognized to remove an item from this collective vote and/or to be recorded as abstaining on a particular item here in section H? Okay, seeing none, properly moved and seconded. Any discussion on the consolidated slate? Nope. All in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Nope. Okay. All right. So with that, these folks have been confirmed. So if you were just confirmed and returned to join us in chambers this evening, which is optional, please do stand to be recognized when you hear your name called as I read all the names of those confirmed, and then we'll have a collective applause at the end if anyone has returned to join us. So first, for the Agricultural Extension Board, Council has confirmed Jeffrey Easel. To the Board of Health, Morgan McDonald. To the Hospital Authority, Dr. Ari Nettles. Welcome. To the Metropolitan Development and Housing Agency Board, MDHA, Brittany Campagna. Welcome. Also to MDHA, the former councilman, the Honorable Colby Sledge. Okay. To the Social Services Commission, Charlotte Peacock. And to the Stormwater Management Commission, Council has confirmed Fiona Halter Abbott. Welcome and thank you. Congratulations. We appreciate your service. Okay, council members, let's see. As I shared via email and hand-delivered memo on September 3rd, there are vacancies on the Contract Compliance Board and the Housing Trust Fund Commission. Council members will now be called upon to make nominations to fill these vacancies. And first among them is the Contract and Compliance Board. This is a nomination for a council member to serve as a non-voting member of the board with a term expiring October 15th, 2026. Please enter the queue for... Bye, Cub Scouts. Thanks for being here. Okay. Okay, Mr. Parker, go ahead, sir, with your nomination.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to nominate Councilmember Sandra Sepulveda.
Okay. Councilmember Parker has nominated Councilmember and President Pro Tem Sandra Sepulveda. Okay, any other nominations, colleagues? Ms. Hancock, you want to, yep. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'd like to nominate the Honorable Counselor Jennifer Friendly Webb.
Okay. Ms. Hancock has nominated Councilmember Friendly Webb. Okay. Any additional nominations? Please enter the queue if you want to nominate on this item I-1. Okay, seeing none, we will move on to item I-2, also regarding the Contract and Compliance Board, but this time these nominations are for 2 vacancies to be filled by members of the community with terms to expire on October 15th, 2026. Ms. Porterfield, you are recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would like to proudly nominate Ann Barnett.
Okay. Ms. Porterfield has nominated Ann Barnett. Okay. Councilwoman Toombs, you are recognized for a nomination.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I nominate Dante Gleaves.
Okay. Councilwoman Toombs has nominated Dante Gleaves. Are any other council members seeking to nominate a member of the community to serve on the Contract and Compliance Board? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to our third vacancy for which we are seeking nominations from council members, and this is to the Housing Trust Fund Commission. Nominations to fill 1 vacancy on the commission with a term expiring September 17th, 2029. Ms. Weiner, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I appreciate it. I rise to recommend Gloria Hauser, my successor and predecessor for the position. Thank you.
Okay. Councilwoman Weiner has nominated the Honorable Gloria Hauser. Okay. Councilwoman Webb, you are recognized.
Thank you. I nominate Jayla Thomas.
Okay. Ms. Webb has nominated Jayla Thomas. Okay, are any other members seeking to nominate a member of the community to the Housing Trust Fund Commission? Okay, seeing none, the nominations are closed. I do, in this same nomination section, want to bring council member and the community's attention to my memo of today that is notice regarding the East Bank Development Authority vacancies. Okay, there are 2 vacancies, and these will expire June 30th of 2026 for 1, and another for June 30th of 2027. Okay, after initial terms, members of the East Bank Development Authority serve terms lasting 4 years. Okay, an authority member is eligible for reappointment and may serve a maximum of 2 full terms in addition to the initial term. So members of the council will be called upon to make nominations at the regular council meeting on October the 1st. Okay, nominees will be notified, and then the election to fill those vacancies will be conducted, as y'all recall at the top of the meeting, on November 7th. Okay, so not November 5th when we will not have a meeting, but rather on November 7th. So as long as we are in the nomination section of our agenda, wanted to bring that to the awareness of the body and the public. Okay. Yep. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. Ms. Porterfield, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and my apologies if I overlooked this. How is it determined which person would serve until 2026 and which person would serve until 2027?
Director Darby, can you respond to that inquiry, please?
I think that we'll have to have nominations for each one of those positions, but the shorter one, I believe, gets filled first, and then the longer one second. But we'll check on that and get back with you.
Okay. Thank you for your question, Ms. Porterfield. Okay, making a note of that. Okay, next we are moving into public comment. Okay. All right. Members of the public wishing to speak may sign up on the council meeting sign-up sheet for public comment in the Metro Clerk's office at the counter on the day of the scheduled meeting. Public comment sign-up for council meetings begins at 5 p.m. and ends at 6 p.m. Public comment is limited to 20 minutes total at council meetings, and each speaker is allowed up to 2 minutes to speak. In advance of the meeting, requests for interpretation services can be directed to our council office. All that information is on your agenda and on our council website. Persons speaking on agenda items must be prioritized to comply with state law. And by folks signing up for these public comment periods, they have acknowledged that they have read our public comment procedures. Okay, so I am going to set my timer for 20 minutes and call first Jane Steinfels Hussein regarding agenda item 36, speaking in support. This is ordinance BL 2024-510. Go ahead, please, ma'am.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Ma'am, it is actually the smaller of the two
This
mics.
one, okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Greetings to council members and the vice mayor. I'm Jane Steinfels Hussein. I live in zip code 37206, and I'm here to support the amendment about masks and disguises in demonstrations. And I want to first clarify that I'm only speaking for myself. I'm not representing any of the organizations that I've worked with over the years. And also I want to make clear that as an aging, white, middle-class woman, I have generally been treated with courtesy and consideration by the members of our police force. And I want to say that I'm happy that our mayor and our council have both reacted with horror at the visitation by the various neo-Nazi and fascist groups to our city. And I would like to report that recently I participated in a demonstration with the mothers of the young boys who were harassed by the neo-Nazis downtown. And I thought that the performance of the police officers at that event, when they tried to intercede between a fascist group and our group, verbal altercation, that they did an excellent job and showed patience and consideration. However, over the 34 years that I have been an active citizen in Nashville and have participated in countless delegations and demonstrations and occupations and marches, I have observed various incidents and overheard various conversations among police officers. And some of them reflected very favorably on the police force, and some of them reflected very unfavorably. And I have understood from this that...
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Okay.
If you have a sentence that you want to finish. But
yes, there is a considerable number of police officers who actually are politically aligned with the fascists and neo-Nazis, rather than with people of other political,
You're over time, and I just wanted you to be able to conclude your sentence. Thank you. Okay, next is Robert Wincoop. He is speaking on agenda item 37, ordinance BL 2024-511. He is speaking in opposition. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening. For about the past 2 weeks, I've been engaging various members of the council about BL 2024-511. I believe that it is going to infringe upon the First Amendment rights of our citizens. And every time that people have consulted with me about this or given me feedback, they've gone straight to say, well, Metro Legal says this is right. Metro Legal says this is okay. And I would just like to remind everyone here that no one elected Metro Legal. People elected you all. And so the lack of intellectual curiosity about these bills and the way that they've been rubber stamped through committee, the way they've been rubber stamped from first reading tonight, they're going to be rubber stamped tonight. I really encourage you to look inside. You know, today is Constitution Day. We have a Bill of Rights, and we want to protect the right to protest. And this bill is overbroad, and it will be challenged to its constitutionality, and it's going to result in the city being sued. And so I'd like for you to take that feedback and look within yourselves and think about who elected you and what your role is here today with regards to BL 2024-511. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wincoop. Next is Cade Wooten speaking on agenda item 6. This is resolution 2024-709, speaking in support.
Let me just give a second to my community members to come up here. So my name's Cade. I'm a community organizer for Stand Up Nashville, and I'm speaking in support of the Barnes Fund. So first of all, I want to say we're supporting this resolution because the Barnes Fund has been an incredible tool to create affordable housing in our city, and we need more of that. But we also believe that we need to put this approach together with a broader vision to fix our housing crisis here in the city. One that includes us using our public land to build community-controlled, permanent, affordable housing. Right now, public land is being used to benefit corporations. Many of you in council have fought against this, and we thank you for your tireless work to find new solutions. Tonight, I am here with you to talk about some of those new solutions. My organization, Stand Up Nashville, has partnered with Turk and the Equity Alliance to form a coalition called Shift Nashville. Shift Nashville is a vision and policy platform for solving Nashville's 3 biggest issues: jobs, housing, and transit. So some of you may know, because some of you were there, we held a launch event on August 29th that over 100 community members came out to talk about these 3 things. Behind me are some of these community members who were able to make it tonight with signs of data we collected at this event. At this event, we asked community members, what are the big issues in Nashville and how do we solve them? So one thing that came through was expanding funding for the Barnes Fund, and doing more with the Barnes Fund rapidly was a huge part of that. The other things that showed through were that housing, jobs, and transit are interlinked. With the transit referendum coming up on November 5th, we know that we have opportunity the day after, if it passes, to do way more. Development in Nashville needs a new sustainable model that prioritizes community and operates on the input of community. So Shift is here educating folks on the opportunities that will come if the referendum passes. We have an incredible opportunity to fight for these things, as well as long-term sustainable good transit infrastructure. You can all find the Shift platform on SUM's website, and I invite you to read through the bold vision that includes all of Nashville. I've also have little handouts with the QR code that I will leave up here or like down on the table, I guess.
Thank you,
And
Cade.
thank you so much.
Next is Diamond Bell, also speaking on agenda item number 6, resolution 2024-709, in support.
Hey everybody, I'm Diamond. All right, so I am a community organizer with Stand Up Nashville, and I'm speaking in favor of the resolution concerning the Barnes Fund tonight. The Barnes Fund has been a major source of hope and safety for our community, but it is far from perfect. Many in our community have highlighted the real concerns over the Barnes Fund properties: lack of maintenance, poor treatment of residents, and unjust evictions. It is clear that the fund is helpful, but as a tool, but it alone will not be enough to solve the crisis we are in. As part of Shift event, community members told us that one of the biggest problems with housing in Nashville is a lack of community control. The Barnes Fund gives money to developers in exchange for building a certain number of affordable units, but does not do a good job of controlling bad things that can happen afterwards. To stop this, our community members asked for Metro to save our public lands and build housing on them. This could mean giving the land to community land trust or housing co-ops to operate instead of private developers. If we did this, we could also pass rent caps, just cause, eviction policy, and other strong tenant protections that the state has preempted for private development. As we move toward the historic transit referendum on November 5th, we should be prioritizing discussion of displacement pressures that have been created due to corporate greed. Through the use of public land and the Barnes Fund, we can create a new vision for development where we build permanent affordability into our system. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. Next is LaShonda Humphrey, also speaking on Agenda Item 6, Resolution 2024-709, in support. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is LaShonda Humphrey, and I'm one of the community members from Stand Up Nashville. I support the Barnes Fund for affordable housing for nonprofit due to speeding up the process for safer schools, safer environments, not spending the money for profit developers. And there are still potholes that are not being addressed, extremely daily violence with our children being killed daily, people not being able to afford their medications due to rent, the rising in the rent costs for profit motive. This is why we think that the transit referendum is very important, not only for transit, but housing and jobs as well. This is why I'm supporting SHIFT. Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Next is Pammy Doss, also on Agenda Item number 6. Go ahead, please.
Hi, I'm Pamela Doss. I'm here with Stand Up Nashville. I am a native Nashvilleian, feeling like I am native to Nashville. I am a mother of 3 young men, and I'm here to speak on affordable housing. As long as we've lived here, they should be able to move out and not live at home with their mother and get housing that is not subpar. I have one son who is on his own, and his apartment has a atrocious mold situation. And he's living where he can afford to live at. It is not cheap where he lives at, but the mold is horrible. He has 3 children, and his daughter does not go to his home on the weekend. She comes to my home because she will not go where there is mold. Considering we have been here and I was raised here and I have paid taxes here all of my 59 years, I expected a little more out of Nashville than what we are getting. I'm a mother. I have children. I have grandchildren. I want my children to have what everyone else has. And I want Nashville to give to them what we gave to all of the companies that have come to Nashville and all of the restaurants that have come to Nashville and has achieved great things off of the backs of my family. I expected more out of Nashville. Thank you. I agree with the Barnes Funds.
Thank you. Next is Delbert Campbell, speaking on a suite of bills, agenda items 35, 36, 37, and 38. Welcome.
Hello, Vice Mayor. Thank you for letting me talk. So thank you, council members, for all that you do. I am kind of confused on why we don't call it what it is, this hate bill. The citizens of Nashville, my community, have been waiting on a response from our elected leaders. These bills speak to curtail their efforts, but are not addressing the legality of the disorderly conduct, especially when directed at our children. I mean, if you don't know the history, you know, July 6th is when they rolled into this town at our state capitol and then marched through our town right after we let go hands, you know, when we were singing for the 4th, you know, let freedom ring. So they picked this city. You got to know that. And they came here. So we need to discourage that activity. Certainly freedom of speech, they should have it, but it cannot be used as a weapon. it culminated into the July 28th, we did a peace walk. Very good response downtown and everything. And I was very impressed with the Nashvillians that supported us and helped us with that. So I'm asking all you board members to please, I plead with you to vote for this. We, they're still looking at us. They're coming back. We have to, get a slogan like we use, when they show, we show. And we will, we will shout them down, for our children. This is for our children, these efforts. When we march downtown, people were standing on the sidelines. When they realized that this was for our children, they joined the march. Because Nashville, we cannot pretend to be something that, we say that we want inclusion, but you're trying to get exclusion, and we don't want that. Please let us in. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Michelle Flynn, speaking on agenda item 25, RS 2024-728, in support. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm going to be quick because I want to make sure some other folks can speak on this as well. This is the MNPD zero tolerance sexual misconduct policy. I just want to say that Metro Legal had this. It was sent to them over 2 weeks ago. Metro Police Department also had a copy of this sent to them 2 weeks ago. I know it was deferred in the Public Safety Committee. I know folks are really trying to have some unanimity around this policy, but I just want to say what the department has in place now is nothing like what is being proposed, and what is and if it had any teeth in it, there would not continue to be women police officers who are coming forward to silent no longer and letting them know that this is happening. Sexual, inappropriate, targeted harassment, intimidation is happening within the police department, primarily against women in the department. And for those of us in the community, if this is happening within the police department, number one, we don't feel safe out here on the street. Those officers coming out, sorry. Many of us, if you look around, 3/4 of every woman that's in here has experienced some forms of sexual violence. And it's not surprising that it's happening in the police department, but it's a toxic culture that needs a really good policy and the department being held accountable for implementation of this policy. It's not just one person, shifting one person within that department and thinking this is going to change a culture. You need to hold some accountability for folks in the department. So I just urge you, I understand it's being deferred for 2 council meetings. I really would be wonderful if it was 100% of the council behind this. There is no reason for a police department not to want to go along with this. There's no reason.
Thank you, Ms. Flynn.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Greta McLean, also speaking on agenda item 25, RS 2024-728, in support.
Sorry, Greta was not well and had to leave.
That's okay. Alicia Haddock, on agenda item 25, RS 2024-728. Chair Haddock, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Alicia Haddock, Chair of the Community Review Board. And I had to change my public comment tonight because there was an expectation that you, the Nashville Council, would hear and vote on a resolution brought forth by the Women's Caucus that supports the best practice, standalone, zero-tolerance sexual misconduct policy that was crafted by the Nashville Community Review Board. There was an expectation that members of the Metro Nashville Police Department would have read this policy by now that vigorously protects their employees and the public alike from sexual harassment, sexual misconduct, and sexual violence. There was also an expectation from our legal department to not only read this policy, but offer any suggestions to ensure the safety of Nashville citizens are top priority. But I've realized no matter how serious or significant and important this best practice standalone zero tolerance sexual misconduct policy is, everyone may not feel the same way we do. The community has been expecting a standalone policy for sexual misconduct since 2020. And 4 years later, I stand in front of you, many of you who I know care about the safety of Nashville citizens and MMPD employees on issues that are public and issues that are private. Because everyone who has been sexually assaulted may not come forward because of shame, guilt, and they may not be believed. Every person is different, and it's time for a change. It's time to make things right and come to the table so women and vulnerable populations feel safe from all forms of harm. It's time to ensure Nashvillians that we see them. We do not have to abandon our values to do what is right. Please support this policy.
Thank you. Next is Director Jill Fitchard, speaking on Agenda Item 25, Resolution 2024-728. Welcome, Director.
Hi, thank you. Good evening. When I began this journey of police accountability work, I heard many stories of rampant sexual misconduct within the police department. However, it wasn't until I began to take in those complaints from citizens that I realized that the public's reporting was even more dire. It was the citizens' complaints that came to us reporting the lack of communication, ineffective investigations, and the lack of trauma-informed care from victims, and a host of other grievances that led our team to move forward with creating a best practice sexual misconduct policy report. We investigated citizen complaints related to sexual misconduct and knew that we had a tremendous opportunity to address the issues that we saw as flaws in an existing policy that was written with fault lines of ambiguity. We began the research to determine who had the best zero tolerance policy in the country, and there were cities that popped up like Chicago and Baltimore, Seattle and Oakland. And with each of those departments, they worked together with the Department of Justice to create this best practice policy, as well as they were under consent decrees, something we are hoping to avoid in our city. And so we sought out subject matter experts like the International Chiefs of Police, the End Violence Against Women International, and the Nashville Family Safety Center, and the Department of Justice as we wrote this policy. So when you read it, you are looking at a policy that was vetted by some of those departments. I believe this policy will provide an extraordinary protection for the employees of the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department and safeguards for the members of our public. The swift implementation of this policy will tell all employees and the community of Nashville that sexual misconduct in our police department, no matter by whom, no matter their rank, no matter their status, will not be tolerated and handled fairly and expeditiously through a well-defined process found in the zero tolerance sexual misconduct policy. Please support this policy. Thank you.
Director Fitchard. Okay. That concludes our public comment period. We are at 20 minutes and 30 some odd seconds, with 10 folks having spoken within that time. Thank you to everyone who came for public comments. Okay, next we are moving into our consolidated consent agenda. All resolutions and second and third reading ordinances on this agenda are included on the consent agenda if recommended for approval unanimously by all the committees to which the item was referred. Items on the consent agenda will be voted on at a single time. The item number, along with the resolution and ordinance number of the items on the consent agenda, will be read by me for the benefit of the viewing public at home and in chambers. Members of the council may remove any item from the consent agenda by request before the consent agenda vote is taken. Okay. Okay, so we're going to be moving right into the consent agenda. First is Agenda Item 1, Resolution 2024-704. Next is Agenda Item 2, Resolution 2024-705. Agenda Item 3, Resolution 2024-706. Agenda Item 4, Resolution 2024-707. Agenda Item 7, Resolution 2024-710. Agenda Item 8, Resolution 2024-711. Agenda Item 10, Resolution 2024-713. Agenda Item 11, Resolution 2024-714. Agenda Item 12, Resolution 2024-715. Agenda Item 13, Resolution 2024-716. Agenda Item 14, Resolution 2024-717. Agenda Item 15, Resolution 2024-718. Agenda Item 16, Resolution 2024-719. Agenda Item 17, Resolution 2024-720. Agenda Item 18, Resolution 2024-721. Agenda Item 19, Resolution 2024-722. Agenda Item 20, Resolution 2024-723. Agenda Item 21, Resolution 2024-724. Agenda Item 22, Resolution 2024-725. Agenda Item 23, Resolution 2024-726. Agenda Item 24, Resolution 2024-727. Agenda Item 26, Resolution 2024-729. Agenda Item 27, Resolution 2024-730. Agenda Item 28, Resolution 2024-731. Agenda Item 29, Resolution 2024-732. Agenda Item 30, Resolution 2024-733. Agenda Item 31, Resolution 2024-734. And that concludes our resolutions. Okay, next, second reading items recommended for consent. First among those is Agenda Item 35, Ordinance BL 2024-509. Agenda Item 36, Ordinance BL 2024-510. Agenda Item 37, Ordinance BL 2024-511. Agenda Item 38, Ordinance BL 2024-512. Agenda Item 39, Ordinance BL 2024-513. Agenda Item 40, Ordinance BL 2024-514. Agenda Item 41, Ordinance BL 2024-516. Agenda item 42, ordinance BL 2024-517. Agenda item 43, ordinance BL 2024-518. Agenda item 44, ordinance BL 2024-519. Agenda item 45, ordinance BL 2024-520. Agenda item 46, ordinance BL 2024-521. Agenda item 47, ordinance BL 2024-522. Agenda item 48, ordinance BL 2024-523. Agenda item 49, ordinance BL 2024-524. And agenda item 50, ordinance BL 2024-525. Next, we're moving into resolutions on, or rather bills on third reading proposed for the consent agenda. First among those, agenda item 51, ordinance BL 2024-468. Agenda item 52, ordinance BL 2024-483. Agenda item 55, ordinance BL 2024-488. Agenda item 56, ordinance BL 2024-489. Agenda item 59, ordinance BL 2024-492. Agenda item 60, ordinance BL 2024-493. Agenda item 61, ordinance BL 2024-494. Agenda item 62, ordinance BL 2024-498. Agenda item 63, ordinance BL 2024-499. Agenda item 64, ordinance BL 2024-500. Agenda item 65, ordinance BL 2024-501. Agenda item 66, ordinance BL 2024-502. Agenda item 67, ordinance BL 2024-503. Agenda item 68, ordinance BL 2024-504. Agenda item 69, ordinance BL 2024-505. Agenda item 70, ordinance BL 2024-506. Agenda item 71, ordinance BL 2024-507. Agenda item 72, ordinance BL 2024-508. Okay. That is our last item proposed for consent. Do any items need to be removed from the consolidated consent agenda? If so, if members would please join the queue to request that. Okay. Council Member Gadd, you are recognized.
Thank you so much, Madam Vice Mayor. I would like to remove from the consolidated consent calendar number 68 on our agenda. That's BL 2024-504.
Okay. Ms. Gadd has requested and we have removed agenda item 68, ordinance BL 2024-504. Okay. Next, Councilwoman Olivia Hill, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I need to pull item number 29, 2024-732.
Okay, Ms. Hill has requested removal of agenda item 29, resolution 2024-732. Okay, so requested and so removed. Okay, and we'll go back and mark that in here. Okay, next, Councilman Cap, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'll pull numbers 35 and 38, please.
Okay, Councilman Cap has requested that agenda items 35, ordinance BL 2024-509, and agenda item 36, ordinance BL 2024-5. Okay, 35 and 38. Thank you for the clarification. So 35 is removed, and 38, agenda item 38, which is ordinance BL 2024-512, which will be removed from the consolidated consent agenda. Okay, next, Councilwoman Toombs, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I'd like to remove item 24, just resolution 2024-727, and item number 31, resolution 2024-730.
Okay, Ms. Toombs has requested the removal of agenda item 24, resolution 2024-727. And Ms. Toombs, the next one was agenda item 31, resolution 2024-734. Both those will be removed from the consolidated consent agenda. Okay. Okay, next, Councilwoman Sepulveda, you are recognized, Pro Tem.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I need to remove item 30, RS 2024-733.
Okay, Councilwoman Sepulveda has requested removal of agenda item 30, RS 2024-733 from the consolidated consent agenda. Okay. Councilman Cortez, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to remove number 37, BL 2024-511.
Okay, agenda item 37, ordinance BL 2024-511 will also be removed from the consolidated consent agenda. Okay, and lastly, Councilwoman Porterfield, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to pull item 36, BL 2024-510.
Okay, agenda item 36, ordinance 2024-510 will be removed from consent. Okay. Are any other members seeking to remove items from the consolidated consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, we will move into then committee reports. All right, so this is for committee reports for items on the consolidated consent agenda. First is Budget and Finance Chair Porterfield. You are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance considered the following items. RS 2024-704, 705, 706, 707, 710, 711, 713, 714, 715, 716, 717, 718, 719, 720, 721, 722, 723, 724, 725, and 726, all 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. And the items BL 2024-516, -517, -518, and -519, all 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Thank you, Chair Porterfield. Okay, next is the report of the Arts, Parks, Libraries, and Entertainment Committee. Chair Gadd, for your report, please, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. Resolutions, RS 2024-717, passed 9 in favor, 0 against. Resolution 2024-718, passed 9 in favor, 0 against. Resolution 2024-719, passed 9 in favor, 0 against. And then bill on second reading, BL 2024-519, passed 9 in favor, 0 against. And I believe the last part of the report is for a bill that has been removed from that consent agenda.
Okay. All right. So thank you for that report, Chair Gadd. Okay. Next let's see. Government Operations and Regulations. Chair Hill, you're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. We heard BL 2024-509 and 517. They were all voted 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 non-voting.
Okay, I believe 509 was removed from consent. Is that correct? Okay, so I will come back to you, Chair Hill, for the report on that later. But for 517, we've got your report. Okay. Okay, next, Planning and Zoning Committee, Chair Gamble, you're recognized for your committee report.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Planning and Zoning considered for consent resolutions 705, 706, 707, 710, 711, 726, and on bills on recommended approval, 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. For bills on second reading, we considered Bill 2024-516, 519, 520, 521, 522, 523, 524, 525. Recommended approval, 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Bills on third reading, we considered Bill 2024-483, 484, 488, 489, 492, 493, and 494. Recommended approval, 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Okay, zoning. Okay, next, for the report of the Public Health and Safety Committee, Chair Evans, you're recognized, Chair.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We heard RS 2024-712 and recommended approval, 7 in favor, 0 against, 1 not voting.
Let's see.
I'm sorry that we already did that one. Never mind.
No worries. Yeah, I don't have 712 proposed for the consent agenda. I think your first bill among them is 713.
Yes.
Okay.
And we recommended approval, 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay.
RS 2024-714, we recommended approval, 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. RS 2024-715, also 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. And then RS 2024-716, RS 2024-720, RS 2024-721 and 722 were all 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, thank you. And your second reading items?
We had BL 2024-516 was recommended approval, 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. And then also BL 2024-518 was also 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay. All right, and all of those other 4 referred to your committee have been removed from consent. Okay. All right, so that concludes public health and safety. Zoning. Okay, next is the report of the Rules, Confirmations, and Public Elections Committee. Chair Prep T, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. RCPC considered RS 2024-729, 731, 732 may have been pulled from consent, but
Let's see, 729 is still on consent. 730 is as well, 731. And I apologize for your question, 732, 733, and 734 have all been pulled from consent.
okay, well then, for the ones that are still on consent,
Yeah.
we voted 5 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, thank you. All right. Next is the report of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee for items on consent. Chair Parker, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Transportation and Infrastructure considered resolutions RS 2024-723 through 726. Recommended approval of all of those, 7 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting. Bills on second reading, we considered BL 2024-512 through 514, as well as 519 through 525. Also recommended approval of all of those, 7 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting.
Okay, and just to clarify, Chair Parker, 512, which I think you mentioned, has been removed from consent, but your report 513, 14 on down through there, all on still on consent, so all good. Okay. Could we have then a consolidated motion, please, sir?
With all committee reports in, I will move the consolidated consent agenda.
Is there a second? Okay, is there any discussion on the consolidated consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Okay, any voting no or abstaining? All right, you have adopted all items on the consent agenda, or the resolutions rather, and all other items are on second are approved and on third are adopted. Okay, all right, so now we are going to go back to items on our agenda that were not on consent. Okay. Back to resolutions. First among them, not on consent, is Agenda Item 5, Resolution 2024-701, sponsor Porterfield. This is a resolution authorizing the Metropolitan Department of Law to compromise and settle Jonathan Sodd's claims against the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County in the amount of $150,000 to be paid from the $3 million allocated by the Director of Finance on March 21st, 2024, for the resolution of matters related to the Arts Commission. Chair Porterfield, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move for approval.
Can you
just
provide
kidding.
your committee report?
Committee
No worries.
reports. My bad.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Ms. Lee, point of order.
I think that's not here. Did you say 701? Where
I apologize. So just now, when I was reading the agenda item, okay, my apologies. Thank you for the clarification. So we are, for the public and the body, we are on agenda item 5, resolution 2024-708. Thank you for the clarification. Go ahead, please, Ms. Porterfield. You just provided the report. Is that correct?
I'm getting ready to provide it.
Okay, go
Committee
ahead.
reports, Budget and Finance voted 7 in favor, 0 against, 2 not voting.
Okay.
And that was the only committee that it went to, so I will move for approval.
Okay. Is there a second for the motion to approve? Okay. The bill is properly before us, and so we are now on discussion. Ms. Stiles, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. I know we have before us again another issue with Metro Arts. I'm voting against this payout. I'm not in support of paying this individual. Well, with all the drama that we've had going on, this individual is actually a part of it. So I'm voting no. I would suggest colleagues vote no as well. I'm sure you'll hear from others that have some questions regarding this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stiles. Councilwoman Welsh, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would actually like to move for a 2-meeting deferral on this. I have many questions about this, and I would like to ask and get some answers to some questions before we take a vote on something this big of a payout.
Okay, a deferral is a prevailing motion. I did hear a second to the motion to defer 2 meetings. So now we are on a motion to defer 2 meetings. Is there any discussion on the motion to defer 2 meetings? Okay. Mr. Parker, you are recognized on the motion to defer.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and I'm rising in support of the deferral motion. I was considering making one myself, and for the purpose of, I've reviewed the complaint that was filed in this case. I happened to be in the courthouse and went down to the Chancery Court Clerk's office and read it there, which is something I believe any member of the public can do at any time without having to pay a fee or anything. So I read it there, and I've had a lot of questions. I found the complaint to be kind of vague and just raised a lot of questions for me. So one thing that I would like to do if the body does vote for a deferral is ask staff to get a copy of that complaint that was filed and email that to the full body so that folks can read it. It's only about 12 pages, so it's not going to tie up your whole afternoon, but that's
okay.
my
Yep. So
purpose for
noted. I
supporting
see
this.
Director Darby nodding in the affirmative in that regard. Ms. Benedict, and if you have an issue there, ma'am, you do not actually have to stand if you have a hurt foot there, but go ahead. You're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Would it be a point of personal privilege for me to prop the swollen foot up on the broken toe up on the desk?
Let's not do that.
Let's not do that. Okay. So I think you may want to direct this to Director Darby. I have a question about where these funds are being paid from. This is the second settlement that's been proposed to us out of the actual department. I'd like to understand how many judgments or losses have been charged to an individual department since maybe in the past 12 months, something to that effect. I'd like to understand if that's something that we can put together during the 2-meeting deferral timeframe. I am in support of the deferral, but I wanted to check on that and see. So it seems abnormal to me.
Okay, so your question in the time of in support of the 2-meeting deferral is if for comparative purposes, Ms. Darby could assess comparable settlements in other departments. Is that your question?
Thank you for that clarification. What I'm actually looking for is how often are we taking settlements out of individual departmental budgets, which is what this one is proposed to be. This settlement is coming from the arts department rather than the judgments and losses accounts as I read the resolution, and I'm looking like I might be incorrect on that.
Okay, Ms. Darby, would you like to speak to this, please?
I believe that these funds are coming out of the money that was set aside specifically for any litigation costs that may be generated from the past year's issues with the Arts Commission.
So, Ms. Derby, this then is a separate dedicated fund aside from the Arts Department budget?
I believe it was some of those funds that were pulled back that were discussed previously by the Finance Department. And the Finance Department may be able to answer that question a little bit more completely with the name of the fund.
Okay. Yes, point of parliamentary inquiry. Go ahead. Is your microphone working, Ms. Lee?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
If you would please assist me, is what we're doing now on the motion or on the bill?
We are on the motion to defer for 2 meetings. As I understand Ms. Benedict's question, she is trying to assess if within the space of the 2-meeting deferral, her question can be addressed. And I believe Ms. Darby is affirming that she can get that information. Okay. Anything else, Ms. Benedict? Okay, go ahead, Ms. Benedict.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that when that information comes out, I appreciate that it is going to be looked into. I think the funding that was set aside was last fiscal year. So I just, as the director looks at that, that might be helpful to just call that out there. So thank you. And again, for my colleagues, I'm supportive of the deferral.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Benedict. Ms. Porterfield on the deferral.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I was wondering if the sponsor would be open to amending the deferral to re-refer it back to Budget and Finance so that some of these financial questions can be answered in committee.
Good suggestion, Chair of Budget. Ms. Welsh, would you like to amend your motion? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, Vice Mayor, I'd like to amend my motion for a 2-meeting deferral with a re-referral back to the Budget and Finance Committee.
Is there a second for that amended motion? Okay, we've added the re-referral. Thank you, Chair. Is there any other discussion on the 2-meeting deferral with a re-referral to the Budget and Finance Committee? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Oh, okay. So Mr. Cap is an abstention, and I, over here, Ms. Hancock is a no. It's a deferral motion, so the clerk will make it so noted, okay? It is deferred 2 meetings with a re-referred roll to budget. Okay. Next is agenda item 6, Resolution 2024-709. Sponsors Porterfield, Gamble, Weiner, Welsh, Swara, Gadd, Benedict, Cap, and Ellis. This is a resolution authorizing grants not exceeding $26,234,615 from the Barnes Fund for Affordable Housing to certain nonprofits for the express purpose of constructing and rehabilitating affordable or workforce housing. Chair Porterfield, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, Budget and Finance considered 709 and voted 8 in favor, 0 against, and 1 abstaining.
Okay. Chair Gamble for the report of the Planning and Zoning Committee, please.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Planning and Zoning recommended approval, 9 in favor, 0 against, 1 not voting.
Okay, 9 in favor, 0 against, 1 not voting. Okay, Ms. Porterfield, it is back to you for a motion to get the bill before us.
I move for approval.
Okay.
To get it before us.
Yep, there's a motion to approve. Is there a second? Okay, and it's back to you, Ms. Porterfield, on your bill.
We do have a late file amendment that went before the Rules Committee. Could I get the committee report for rules?
Yes, let's see. So, Chair Prep T, we had a late filed amendment, so we're going to have to suspend the rules, housekeeping amendment, to get it before us. Can you give us a report, please, on the late housekeeping amendment?
Yes, thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. We considered the late filed nature of the amendment and voted 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting to approve.
Okay. Members of the body, having heard the report of the Rules and Confirmation and Elections Committee and the request of Ms. Porterfield to suspend the rules, are there any objections to the suspension of the rules? Okay, seeing none, the rules are suspended. And so it's back to you, Ms. Porterfield, on your bill. At this juncture with the rules suspended, a motion to amend with your late amendment would be a proper motion.
I would like to move for approval of the late filed amendment
Okay,
with a brief explanation.
properly second. Go ahead, ma'am.
This is a housekeeping amendment, everyone. You all should have gotten a letter on your desk that was from Director Hubbard, but essentially there was a scanning error when the exhibit was scanned in. So every other page was scanned into the exhibit. So it was timely filed, but the late filed adds the additional exhibits that were inadvertently left off. And with that, I would ask for approval.
Okay, there is a motion to amend, properly seconded. You've heard the description of Chair Porterfield. Ms. Allen, are you seeking to speak on the amendment? No. Okay. Anyone else seeking to speak on the motion to amend? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, so we're back to you for a motion on your bill as amended.
Move for approval as amended.
Is there a second? Okay, properly moved and seconded. Now, Ms. Allen, on the bill as amended, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I need to be recorded as abstaining, please.
Okay, clerk, if you will make that note, please. Okay, is there anyone else seeking discussion on this resolution as amended? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no, and Ms. Allen abstaining. Okay, okay. So that resolution is adopted as amended. Okay. Next is agenda item, let's see, agenda item 9, we already pulled to the front and we have addressed that. Okay, and so next is, thank you, is agenda item 24, resolution 2024-727. This is a resolution declaring racism a public health crisis in Nashville and Davidson County. Sponsors Toombs, Porterfield, Vo, Gamble, Lee, Suarez, Stiles, Ellis, and Benedict. Ms. Toombs, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Committee report.
Chair Prep T, sir, for your committee report.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. RCPC considered RS 2024-727 and voted 5 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, got it. Back to you, Ms. Toombs.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Move for approval with a brief comment.
Is there a second? Go ahead, ma'am.
Actually, can I invoke Rule 12.3 as part of my motion?
You may, properly seconded. So Rule 12.3, colleagues, is everyone voting in the affirmative will be signed on as a co-sponsor. Is there any objection? Okay, all right, your motion is amended.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. So the council did a similar resolution to this in 2020, declaring racism as a public health crisis. As I stated during the announcement period, the YWCA is having its Stand Against Injustice community rally next Thursday on the 26th at 11:30 right here. And so this is the council speaking out against systemic racism and the impacts that it has on health in our city and in our country. There are a lot of health disparities. One glaring one is the mortality rate for Black mothers during childbirth. They are more than twice as likely to die than their white counterparts. There's a lot of data out there. There's one study where it's been shown that healthcare professionals believe that Black women feel less pain than white women. And there's no rational basis for that other than racial bias. So there's a lot of disparities out there. And so this is the council taking a stand, recognizing those disparities, that systemic racism is a problem, lifting up the work that our health department already does and encouraging them to do even more work so that we can eradicate the systemic racism and the impact that it's had on our society.
Thank
With
you,
that,
Chair
I renew my
Toombs.
motion.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on this resolution? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay, adopted that resolution. Next is Agenda Item 25, RS 2024-728. This is a resolution requesting the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department implement a zero-tolerance policy for sexual misconduct. Sponsors Stiles, Swara, Toombs, Welsh, Bradford, Ellis, Gadd, Benedict, and Vo. Ms. Stiles, sponsor, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Okay, for the report of the Public Health and Safety Committee, Chair Evans, you're recognized.
Thank you. Public Health and Safety recommended a 2-meeting deferral, 7 in favor, 2 against, 0 not voting.
Okay. Chair Prep T for the report of the Rules, Confirmations, and Public Elections Committee.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. We considered RS 2024-728 and voted for a 2-meeting deferral, 5 in favor, 0 against, 1 not voting.
Okay. Duly noted. Okay, so it's back to you, Ms. Stiles, for a motion on your resolution.
Thank you very much. I'd like to move for approval with a brief comment, if I may.
Okay, there is a motion to approve. Is there a second? Okay, properly moved and properly seconded. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. So at our last month's meeting for the Women's Caucus, members of the Community Review Board, as well as Silent No Longers, run by Greta McLean. I believe Ms. Haddock is still here. Alicia Haddock, also Director Jill Fitchard, and Michelle Flynn came before us to discuss a policy that they have created for zero tolerance dealing with harassment. And unanimously in the meeting, we were in support of this policy and it being implemented by MMPD, particularly because 4 years ago, we began this conversation when Ms. McLean came to the Women's Caucus to say that there were issues going on in MMPD where women were feeling like they could not report incidences because they were suffering from retaliation. So we actually had a conversation with Director Hall as well as Director Lance of Office Family Safety so that people could file complaints anonymously and only be known by numbers. And so it appears that a statement was placed on the website that this existed, but it wasn't disseminated to all of the departments, and it's not currently in use. So realizing that we have stood behind this policy that has been presented, we support it. MMPD is not a bad department. All officers are not bad, but if there are bad apples, we need to get rid of them. And so to be able to report safely, be able to go to your job safely, we should be looking out for all of our employees because they are giving us their best. And our best is to protect them and make sure that we have policies in place that work. And this is a policy that will work for accountability. And we are currently struggling because the number has gone up significantly from when they came to us with complaints. It doesn't make sense to me that we're still having this conversation. So if we believe that taking care of employees is important and people's safety is important, particularly our safety department, then we do need to implement this policy that they are providing. As far as the 2-meeting deferral, the information that was the basis for the deferral is actually in all of our inboxes. There were 3 attachments in the original email from Dylan. It provided the original policy that they are presenting, and it compares MMPD's policy right now with their policy, and it shows you the differences. So if you're looking through your computers now, you have a chance, you can scroll through that, but the information you need is there. We don't need a 2-meeting deferral. You already have it. So I would ask for your support on this resolution. It is an important piece of work, and I think we should stand behind the people that have created it. Thank you very much.
Okay, there is a motion to approve, properly seconded, and now we are on discussion. Ms. Johnston, you are recognized.
Thank you. I'm going to move a 2-meeting deferral. The 2-meeting deferral, the purpose of it was not for the council to necessarily.
Is there a second for the motion for a 2-meeting deferral? Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
Sorry. It was not for the council to review or compare. It was actually for Metro Legal to. When I asked a question in public safety about some of the language that I think was sort of broad and maybe ambiguous and could have created some problems. Director Dietz let everyone know that they have not had a chance to review the policy that's being presented. Yes, MNPD does have a pretty comprehensive plan policy already. It has been on the website for, I think, since 2018. But I asked how long it would take for his department to make those necessary comparisons, and also to make sure that the differences with the one that's being proposed is actually in compliance with state and federal law. And so that was what I chose to give the department, our Department of Law that is in charge of that, to look at this. So that if we are going to make some changes, we need to make sure that it's comprehensive and that everyone is on the same page. There's no reason for us to not defer this for 2 meetings in order to allow the Department of Law to do their job and make those necessary reviews and whatever recommendations that they would make. We do have a policy that is currently being used, whether we think that is not good enough or not. That's really not the point. Really, we need Metro Legal to have the ability to make these comparisons. And so I hope you'll support the 2-meeting deferral.
Okay, there's a motion to defer 2 meetings. It is properly seconded, and so we are continuing on discussion on the motion to defer 2 meetings. Chair Prep T, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. And I want to start by thanking all of the sponsors for bringing this resolution. I rise to speak in opposition to the 2-meeting deferral. We've had a pretty clear indication that even though there is a policy that is currently in place and that is relatively comprehensive, there are gaps. There are gaps that need to be filled, and there is a problem that we have been told about and have been provided a solution and have been asked to take action by our community, by our constituents, to ensure that every single person in our community is protected under the color of law. And I fully support this resolution. I fully support bringing this forward and making sure that we have the best possible policies and the best possible governance in every single one of our institutions. So I rise in opposition of this 2-meeting deferral and speak in favor of this resolution.
Thank you. Mr. Cortez, you are recognized, sir, on the motion to defer 2 meetings.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. My question for any of the sponsors is, I'm fully supportive of a zero tolerance policy. Have we looked at implementing that in the Metro government as a whole to protect everybody who's working under Metro? Is that something that if we took this 2-meeting deferral that we could amend the proposal?
Would you like to direct that question perhaps instead to the legal department?
Sure.
Okay. Mr. Dietz, you are recognized, sir, Director.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Vice Mayor. If I understood the question, could the law department review the policy during the 2-meeting deferral?
Yes, but could this be amended to cover all of Metro, not just one department?
Okay. Mr. Dietz, so within the 2-meeting deferral period, and just additionally, is there potential to defer, or rather amend this in that time to apply?
We would need more than a 2-meeting deferral to compare the CRB proposed policy with all of the Metro Department policies. Civil service, and, we'll look at civil service, but, each department can have its own policy. Commissions and boards can have their own policies. And so I don't know how many are in existence. We could start to take a look at that, but I'm not sure we could accomplish the task in just the 2-meeting deferral.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Cortez?
It does.
Okay. Next, Ms. Stiles, you are next in the queue. You have already spoken 3 minutes on this, but do you want to respond to Mr. Cortez's question particular to amending the bill to be applicable? Okay, I will allow that in response to his question, okay?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And so when we first started having this conversation 4 years ago, that was one of the questions that came up, is if we could come up with a policy that was be comprehensive for everyone and not just MMPD. And some of what Director Dietz has said came up, which is why we initially were looking to address MNPD first and then figure out how we could add other departments. So I would say at this time tonight, we have an opportunity to get started on that work. So why not go ahead and say where we know we have a large amount of complaints and concerns that we want to address that department with the intention of applying it overall across Metro. But better to get started on one step now than to just wait.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Ms.
Vice.
Stiles. Mr. Nash, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, President. I speak in favor of the deferral. I think there's still a lot of questions, maybe about both these policies. It's been a while since we've all had a chance to really review them in some detail. For instance, I'm a little concerned about anonymous complaints. Maybe to get the complaint started and get some inquiries started, that's great. But sooner or later, you have a right to confront your accuser. And at the police department, you can complain to your supervisor. You can complain to head of police HR. You can go to the Office of Police Accountability. So there's lots of places, if you want to go to your director supervisor, there's lots of places you can go to complain to. And I believe you can even go to the big HR, but I won't say that for a fact. So there's nothing wrong with a couple meeting deferral of 1 month. We have a policy in place that is already pretty stringent if you read it. Again, I think there's still lots of questions that could be answered.
Okay, Ms. Weiner, you are recognized on the motion to defer 2 meetings.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I appreciate it. I too rise to support the deferral for one reason. The best policies that are created are the ones that are thoroughly vetted. We have an existing policy in Metro Police. We also have a really good policy that's been presented by the CRB. I would love to have a legal mind or 2 or 3 look at this, give us a deep dive on what may, as Councilmember Nash said, what may be missing. And so I don't think a 2-meeting deferral is out of line. I think it's appropriate, and I would hope everybody would support the deferral. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Bradford, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. A question I had that came up in some earlier lines of questioning. The question was, how much time would it take for Metro Legal to review all Metro policies to see where they're at? My question to that would be, if this was amended to cover all Metro departments, would that not supersede any current policy? Therefore, instead of spending the time to research what each department says, they would then have, instead of legal doing that research, those departments then have to just redo their policies to match this amended law. Would that be a correct understanding?
Mr. Dietz or someone from legal, can you respond to Mr. Bradford's question? Ms. Fox, go ahead. You're recognized.
Sure, I'm Laura Fox from Metro Legal. I think the problem is not just that we don't know what's out there, but that we do know that we have a civil service process for employees and that there are policies that must be adopted through that process. And so we would need to look at this policy, and it may need to be presented to the civil service board is what I'm saying. And I don't know that is so, but that would take some research to find out. So I can't answer your question today about whether you can adopt a universal policy. I have a feeling it's more complicated than that because most things that we deal with end up being more complicated than that.
All right. Thank you for that.
Okay.
No more questions.
Ms. Gadd, you're recognized on the motion to defer 2 meetings.
Thank you so much, Vice Mayor. While I respect my colleagues, I rise to oppose the 2-meeting deferral. For my colleagues who have taken the time to read through, and I'm sure you have, the policy proposal and listen to the women and read the stories of what has been going on for much longer than I've been sitting at this desk, I just feel like we've probably waited enough. And with more coordination, I would say not coordination, but collaboration with MMPD and the CRB, I think we could probably move these conversations forward a little faster, so maybe we can encourage that as well. But I just can't possibly stand here and say delay anymore. If you've ever been a victim of sexual misconduct in any workplace or in any environment, you'll know that any delay is a delay that is painful, that is harsh, and is one I would not ask any colleague here or any member of the public to be a part of.
Thank you, Ms. Gadd. Ms. Welsh, you are recognized on the motion to defer 2 meetings.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I rise in opposition to the 2-week deferral, 2-meeting deferral. The current policy within MNPD, whatever that is not being enforced and really has no teeth. And this policy put together by the CRB is based on best practices around the country with cities that are working under consent decrees with the DOJ, meaning that they are in fact best practices and the best way to actually handle this. My colleague, CM Nash, talked about the accountability means that are already set up in Metro in MNPD. But as a whistleblower complaint in this whole process of putting together this policy showed things are not being enforced and there is no accountability within MNPD. And that whistleblower complaint led to the head of Internal Affairs, Kathy Morante, being removed from her job rightfully for not holding MNPD to account. I think that this new policy has some teeth, and if we have the will as a body and the mayor's office has the will to demand that it be enforced, we can actually truly start to address this very insidious problem within MNPD that has gone on for years unaddressed in any meaningful way, and that has led to women within MMPD leaving, suffering in their job, and fearing that they can do their job on the street because they don't believe that their colleagues, their male colleagues, necessarily have their back. I don't think I agree with my colleague Gadd that we've waited long enough. This is a small step. It needs to be enforced. Women shouldn't have to wait any longer. So I ask my colleagues to vote down this 2-week deferral, and let's get a policy with teeth in place.
Okay. Ms. Ellis, you are recognized on the motion to defer 2 meetings.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I rise against the deferral. I wanted to perhaps propose the question to Metro Legal. If the numbers have gone up of complaints and the harassment, what's taken so long for you all to review the policy? And they've had this in our inboxes for at least 2 weeks now. So why do you need more time to review?
Mr. Dietz, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Let me start with this. The Department of Law represents all of Metro. And we get requests from people all across Metro to review policies, to work on contracts, to do things. Not a single person at Metro, not the CRB, not this council, not a single person at Metro has asked the Department of Law to look at this policy. And we don't just roam around looking at policies and things that are there unless people say, I have a concern and I would like the Department of Law to look at this. We are not requesting this deferral. It came up in a committee meeting and it was asked, how long would it take if we asked you to do a comparison with the 2 policies? And how long would it take you to identify whether you have any concerns? That was the very first time 2 hours ago that we have been asked to review this policy. So we haven't been waiting because no one asked us to do that. I have not seen the policy. No one at the CRB has sent it to me or anyone in Metro Legal, to my knowledge. So we are here. We are ready to do this if this body asks us to do it. But the notion that we have been dragging our feet is just patently false.
I've got all kinds of mics on
Thank
and
you.
off. Go ahead.
I would just ask my colleagues to vote in opposition of the deferral. We were elected to look out for the best interest of our constituents, and we can't keep allowing a policy that's not effective to stay in place. So I ask that you oppose the deferral.
Okay, Ms. Stiles, on the motion to defer. So I think you spoke on the motion to approve. I recognized you for a clarifying question with Mr. Cortez, but you have yet to speak on the motion to defer. So I will acknowledge you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I did want to also ask when we do the vote, if we could do a roll call vote. I am against a 2-meeting deferral. Again, we have had this information in our inboxes, and I know that we are all inundated with a lot of information. But that information is in our inbox. It was sent not just to us, but to the mayor's office, also to legal. So there was an opportunity to review this information. And there is a side-by-side comparison attached to that email. Again, there isn't a good reason to delay when we know that there are significant issues. I know we like to deliberate, but sometimes that is to the detriment of our constituents. And so this is an opportunity for us to do the right thing. Let us get started on the right work. We can expand that as we move forward to add other departments. So I do not believe we need a 2-meeting deferral. I hope that you all will also vote against the deferral as well. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Stiles has made a motion for a roll call vote. Let's see, and so I need to ask for seconds, and the roll call vote needs to be seconded by 3 additional members. Okay, so we will vote by roll call when we move to the vote. Ms. Allen, are you seeking to be recognized on the 2-meeting deferral? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Since this is going to be a roll call to vote, and I'm going to vote in favor of the deferral because I have to admit that I did not see the comparison, and I would like time to study that. I got this information and I read many things, just not the comparison, which I would like to have time to read. But I did go look in the MNPD manual, and I can't find the page right here right now, but it specifically says sexual harassment will not be tolerated. And so I'm concerned simply that we have a resolution that asks them to implement a policy. And I absolutely agree that we need to have an effective policy and that there is probably room for improvement. I don't want to send the signal to the world that we have not had a policy. So it is important to me to support the women who have concerns and to ensure that we have an effective policy that is enforced and all of that. I'm just concerned with language that makes it sound like we haven't done that. I would like a little bit more time. I would appreciate a comparison from the law. So I just want to go on record as saying it's not because I don't support these women and their complaints. And so if I'm going to have to go on record saying that, I'm against a deferral, and I want people to know why. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Okay, we are on a motion to defer 2 meetings. Seeing no further discussion, Ms. Stiles having made also a motion for a roll call vote, and that having been sufficiently seconded per our rules, Mr. Clerk, we will now move to the vote on a 2-meeting deferral. Colleagues, just for your awareness, given the reports in committee, which were for a 2-meeting deferral, the re-referral is automatic, okay? So that's why you don't have to amend the motion for the re-referral because those were the reports of the committee, okay? Mr. Clerk, can you please open the vote? Okay, all votes are in. Mr. Clerk, please show the vote. Okay, the motion to defer 2 meetings fails. So we are back on the motion to approve. Okay, let me, colleagues, get back in my, okay, here we are. All right, so we are on a motion to approve. Is there any discussion? Okay, so Ms. Stiles, if you want to request a roll call on the motion to approve, you need to stand and do that. So you are recognized.
I put my name in the queue. I was ready.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yes. I would like to request a roll call for this vote, please.
Is there a second? Okay, I need 3 seconds. Okay, got it. Okay, so there is a motion to approve with a roll call vote. Pardon? I'm aware, yeah. But Ms. Stiles, you also had an amendment when you were speaking on the approval and or now. That is a proper motion, but we do have to suspend the rules for it. You had a late amendment, so I just want to, okay.
So I can explain it briefly. It was a typo. We had silent. Move to suspend the rules.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay, so let me then go, Chair Prep T, did this come to the Rules Committee?
Yes, Madam Vice Mayor. However, the committee moved directly to a vote on the deferral and did not consider the late filed nature of the amendment.
Okay, so your committee recommended the 2-meeting deferral and you did not then take up the late filed amendment as to the nature of the emergency on the suspension of the rules?
That is correct.
Okay. By rule, does this require a report of the committee? Hang on. Ms. Darby, can you please read the rule? Okay.
So the rules state that the sponsor must appear before the committee immediately prior to the regular meeting to disclose the nature of the emergency. But the suspension of the rules could technically apply to that rule as well, 13, which is 13.5.
Okay. Is there, so there is a motion to suspend the rules for purposes of taking up this late filed amendment that does not have a report of the Rules Committee. Is there any objection to a suspension of the rules? Okay, there is no objection. The rules are suspended. Ms. Stiles, you can speak on this late filed amendment.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. This was to correct. It said silent no more in one place, and it needed to say silent no longer. So that's what the amendment does.
Okay, so you moved to amend. Is there a second on the motion to amend? Okay. Yeah, point of order. Yes, I'm sorry, Ms. Porterfield, go ahead.
The amendment also added resident citizens to it as well, so it's not just employees, it's also adding citizens. So I just want to make sure we had that for the record.
Okay, yes. The late file amendment, which I presume is upon everyone's desk, instead of silent no more, says silent no longer Tennessee. And instead of just employees, it says employees and citizens. Okay, so that's to clarify. So there's a motion to amend, properly seconded. This is on the motion to amend. Mr. Nash, do you wish to speak on that? Go ahead, sir. Oh, what? I'm sorry.
Not on the amendment, on the
Okay.
bill itself.
Okay, Ms. Hancock, are you seeking to be recognized on the amendment? Okay, go ahead, Ms. Hancock.
Is the organization called Silent No Longer Tennessee Complaints, or is it called Silent No Longer Tennessee?
I presume that what Ms. Hancock is speaking about is that the letter C is capitalized, so that might make somebody presume that I think it is speaking about the 2020 complaints. To your point, the C should be lowercase. Ms. Darby, do you want to speak to that?
The word complaints is not part of the amendment that's in the original legislation that was filed. It's not part of the amendment. The amendment changes the word more to longer Tennessee.
Should I bring that up again then when we were speaking on the full bill?
It probably ought to be lowercase. Sorry, I didn't. Do you want to recognize me?
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Darby.
It probably ought to be lowercase, but I'm unsure whether it is the name of the organization or not.
Okay, we are on the motion to amend with this late amendment properly seconded. The rules are suspended. Is there any further discussion on the motion to amend with this late amendment? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of this amendment, please say aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Ms. Hancock, do you wish to abstain on the late amendment? Okay. All right. So it's back to you then, Ms. Stiles, for a motion on your bill as amended.
I'd like to approve the resolution as amended, please.
Is there a second? Okay. So what is before us now is a motion to approve the resolution as amended. It's properly seconded. Mr. Nash, you're recognized, sir.
This is a non-binding resolution to begin with, so we've spent a lot of powder on this. But I say that I've not had a single phone call from a constituent. I've not had a call from anybody on the police department that I know. I used to serve as the commander of the sex abuse unit for a couple of years, and I was very proud of the work the people in that unit did at addressing sexual abuse, sexual harassment claims. And part of my problem with this bill is that this is a policy that should be worked out collaboratively between the Civilian Review Board and the police department. I'm not sure it's proper that they brought it here to council so we can leverage one side or the other in this discussion. So I will be abstaining.
Thank you, Mr. Nash. Ms. Ellis, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I don't know if this is in decorum, but I just wanted for the folks watching on live stream, wanted to apologize if my colleagues' comments are offensive to the women that have to come forth anonymously to report sexual harassment.
Okay. Is there anyone else seeking to discuss the motion to approve as amended? Okay. Ms. Stiles has requested a roll call vote that was properly affirmed by multiple members. Seeing no one seeking further discussion, Mr. Clerk, if you would please open the vote. Mr. Parker, are you seeking to vote on this matter? No worries. All votes are in. Mr. Clerk, please show the vote. Okay, the motion passes. You have adopted this resolution with a vote of 30 and 4 abstentions. Okay, next among our resolutions is Agenda Item 29, Resolution 2024-732, sponsors Hill, Allen, and Ellis. This is a resolution recognizing September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in Nashville and Davidson County. Ms. Hill, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I pulled this off the consent just to talk about childhood cancer awareness so that we can talk about this out loud and we can ask for committee reports.
Okay. Mr. Prepty.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. The committee considered RS 2024-732 and voted 5 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, it's back to you, Ms. Hill. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I just want to talk about the awareness of childhood cancer and these warriors and heroes and what they're going through. Main reason I brought this up is I want to mention my grandson, Zachary Lee Milton, who has stage 4 cancer and is dealing with this right now. And I just want to say to my daughter, Kristen, if she's watching, you're the bravest, most amazing daughter and the most amazing mom I have ever known. I would like to move to use Rule 12.3 and ask for everyone to vote in affirmative of this to be added to sponsor this bill in honor of Zachary, and to ask if you pray, whoever you pray to, please pray for my grandson.
Okay, Ms. Hill. Okay, there is a motion to approve with Rule 12.3 such that everyone voting in the affirmative will be listed as a co-sponsor, and that has been properly seconded. Is there any discussion on this resolution? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, we have adopted this resolution. Thank you, Ms. Hill. Okay, agenda item 30, Resolution 2024-733, sponsors Sepulveda, Allen, and Ellis. This is a resolution recognizing September 15th through October 15th, 2024 as Hispanic Heritage Month in Nashville and Davidson County. Ms. Sepulveda, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports.
Mr. Prepty.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. The committee considered RS 2024-733 and voted 5 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Thank you, Mr. Prepty. It's back to you, Ms. Sepulveda, for a motion on your bill.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to move for approval and add on.
Rule 12.3?
Yes, ma'am, with a brief comment.
Okay. There is a motion to approve with Rule 12.3 applied, such that all voting in the affirmative will be signed on as co-sponsors. Go ahead, Ms. Sepulveda.
Thank you. And colleagues, I apologize for not having asked the council office to send this around earlier. If not, I would not have pulled it. And usually I plan ahead and have a reading during announcements and usually make a big spectacle out of it, but I just haven't had the time. But
you can still do that at next meeting.
Yes, let me go ahead and make a spectacle for the next council meeting.
During the announcements portion.
Exactly. I do want to take a moment and acknowledge Hispanic Heritage Month. I am very proud to be Latina and Chicana and Mexican American, and want to take a moment to thank my colleagues who have joined me these past couple of days at some of the events that have already occurred. Hispanic Heritage Month is one of the busiest months of the year for me for very obvious reasons. And we have already enjoyed Mexico en el Corazón. We were just at celebrating Mexico's independence at the Parthenon with the Mexican consulate. And we just had Fiestas Patrias at Plaza Mariachi
with thousands of people who live in Nashville, and it has been a great celebration. And the month has just started. I mean, we're day 17 in, and it started on the 15th, so we got a while to go. So I would encourage you all to find a way to participate in Hispanic Heritage Month, to go to a local business. So go to a local food vendor, go check out a book. I just restocked the little library on Wallace at the bus stop with several of Latinx books that are free to the community. You know, it's an important month to recognize such a vital community that continues to grow here in the city. So with that, thank you all so much for continuing to support our community and the city of Nashville as a whole.
Thank you, Chair Sepulveda. There is a motion to approve, properly seconded with Rule 12.3. Is there any discussion? Okay, not seeing a colleague that is going to elevate it, I'm going to take a moment of personal privilege to congratulate Councilwoman Sepulveda for the award that she received from the Mexican consulate and the Mexican government for her leadership and service as a Mexican American. Yeah. All right. All in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, we have adopted this resolution. Agenda item 31, RS 2024-734, is a resolution recognizing September 21st through the 27th as 2024 as United Against Hate Week. Sponsors Swara, Toombs, Welsh, Evans, Gamble, Gadd, Bradford, Spain, Vogue, Greg, Allen, Porterfield, Benedict, Wiener, and Ellis. No, Ms. Swara is not with us this evening, so Ms. Toombs is second co-sponsor. You are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Committee report.
Mr. Prep-T, Chair, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. The committee considered RS 2024-734 and voted 5 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, back to you for a motion, Ms. Toombs.
Thank you. Move for approval, invoking 12.3 with a brief comment.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I have specific instructions regarding this resolution. I am asking colleagues to join the social media storm this is for the call to action day on September the 24th. Please join the social media storm that starts at 3 p.m. Also, please donate or volunteer with an organization that helps marginalized communities. And lastly, if you own a business or know someone who owns a business, have them to display the United Against Hate sign. And with that, I renew my motion.
Okay, is there any further discussion on this resolution? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, you have adopted this resolution. Okay, that concludes our resolutions. We now have just one bill on introduction and first reading. Without objection, all items on first reading may be voted on at the same time. Is there a motion for approval on first reading? Okay, so moved. This is approved on first reading. This is, I apologize, I should probably, no, I don't even have to read it. BL 2024-551. Mr. Prep-T is sponsor. Thank you, sir. Okay, moving right along into bills on second reading that were not on the consent agenda. First among those, agenda item 33, ordinance BL 2024-469, sponsors Prep-T, Porterfield, Toombs, Swara, Benedict, Vogue, Gadd, Welsh, Lee, Bradford, Kimbrough, Sepulveda, and Ellis. We don't usually do we vote on first? We just kind of do it by consent if there's not any objection. So I didn't do my usual rigmarole because usually it's like, do you want to pull anything off? But yeah, I appreciate it. I was unclear. Understood. Yeah, but we're good. Okay, so this is a description then of agenda item 33. The caption is an ordinance amending chapters 2.44, 2.28, and 2.222 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws pertaining to criminal participation and related actions of employees of the Metropolitan government. Okay, sponsor Prep T, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Committee reports.
Okay, let's see. Chair Evans for the report of the Public Health and Safety Committee.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Public Health and Safety recommended a 2-meeting deferral, 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, so 2-meeting deferral. Okay, it's back to you, Mr. Prep T, for a motion on your bill.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I move for a 2-meeting deferral with a re-referral back to committee.
Okay, is there a second on that motion? Okay, is there any discussion on the motion to defer 2 meetings with a re-referral to committee, which will happen because that was the recommendation of the committee? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, this is deferred for 2 meetings. Okay, agenda item 34, ordinance BL 2024-476, sponsor Porterfield. This is an ordinance to amend chapter 2.112 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws regarding the membership of the Metropolitan Nashville Arts Commission and the process for approving the criteria for awarding funds. Sponsor Porterfield. So you are recognized, Ms. Porterfield.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports. Budget and Finance considered BL 2024-476. The Councilman Sora had an amendment that was approved unanimously, 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. The substitute was moved for the purpose of discussion and failed, 0 in favor, 2 against, 7 abstentions. The bill as amended with Councilwoman Sorora's amendment was approved, 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, and I apologize. So the end part of that was
800, the final version with Sorora's amendment.
Got it. Thank you so much. Okay. Next is the report of the Arts, Parks, and Libraries Committee. Chair Gadd.
Thank you so much. The bill was, the amendment to the bill, Vice Councilmember Suara, was approved, 8 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 present not voting or abstention. We had a substitute by CM Stiles that was not moved, and the bill as amended was approved, 8 in favor, or 8 and 4, 1 against, and 0 present not voting.
Okay, got it. All right, and Mr. Prep T, Chair Prep T, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. The committee considered BL 2024-476. In consideration of this bill, we considered the amendment by Councilmember Suara and voted to approve the amendment, 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Okay. The committee did not consider the substitute by Councilmember Stiles and further considered the bill as amended and approved the bill as amended, 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay. All right. Having heard the reports of all those committees, Sponsor Porterfield, it's back to you for a motion.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would like to move for approval with an explanation.
Go ahead, please, ma'am.
Thank you, colleagues. We deferred this legislation so that we could have a special called meeting to discuss this and an overall conversation with the members of the Budget and Finance Committee about financial oversight when it comes to boards and commissions as well as various departments. And out of that conversation, there were a few takeaways. There was some concern about when was it appropriate to have a council member on a board or commission or not on a board or commission. Councilwoman Sorora and Councilwoman Allen requested to the administration that they look within their boards and commission special work group, that they look and make recommendations on when it's appropriate or when they believe it's appropriate for a council member to serve on a board or commission, and they would bring that back to our body so that we as a body could entertain that conversation and make a determination overall when we believe that it's appropriate for us to have a council member on a particular board or commission. We did believe that it would be too unsettling to a board or commission to put one on now and then possibly remove them if the body determined that that was not an appropriate board to have a council member on. There were also concerns about if the substitute were to go forward, if that would mean that the criteria for approving grants would have to go to the Arts Committee and then it would have to go through 3 readings. And we felt that that would slow down that process. So out of that, Councilwoman Sorora did bring an amendment that is a friendly amendment that would bring attention to if the criteria has changed. So it would specifically state in the resolution if the criteria was changed. So if we had any concerns, we could do a deferral at that time, but it wouldn't tie our hands to the 3 meetings with the additional meeting going before the Arts Commission. So I am going to move Councilwoman Sorora's amendment since she's not here.
Is there a second? Okay.
Thank you. And I will ask colleagues to vote in support of that amendment. And essentially what we would be doing tonight is we would keep the makeup of the board the same. We would still have the criteria come before us each year. We would be notified if there was a change in the criteria. And moving forward, the administration will work with council to help determine when it's appropriate to have council members on boards and commissions. And at that time, we can vote to make that determination. But the recommendation is that we are moving forward with this tonight.
Okay. So what is before you is a motion to amend this ordinance with Councilwoman Suarez amendment. It is properly seconded. Is there any discussion specifically on the amendment or the motion to amend? Ms. Stiles, do you seek to be recognized on the amendment? Okay. Ms. Welsh, do you seek to be recognized on the amendment? Mr. Parker or Ms. Evans? Okay. All right. So is there any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, so we're back to you for your motion on your bill as amended.
Move for approval as amended.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, properly moved and properly seconded. And okay, at this juncture, your time has expired. And so we are on a motion to approve as amended. Next in the queue is Ms. Stiles. You are recognized on the motion to approve as amended.
Vice Mayor, I would like to be able to move my substitute.
Okay, that's a proper motion. Is there a second on Ms. Stiles' substitute? Okay, properly moved and seconded. Okay, so the motion to substitute, it will be taken up at this juncture. It prevails over the motion to approve as amended. So we will have discussion about the substitute at this time. All right, if you want to provide an explanation, Ms. Stiles, of the substitute.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. So yes, we've been discussing this bill as it started 3 months ago, I think, when I first put it forth. And the crux has been whether or not to have a council member on this bill. It is still about approving the grant process, not the monies distributed, but rather just to know what the process is that they're proposing, given the mess that was occurring with the Thrive grants and the legality of distribution. Over the course of the last year and change in attending meetings, watching meetings, speaking to commissioners, speaking to staff, it frequently came up that there is a need to have a council member on this body. We do have other committees and boards that do have a council member present that are able to opine when there are conflicts or misunderstandings. I have personally sat in art commission meetings where I had an answer to questions that were happening, and I wasn't allowed to speak because their rules only allow you to speak in public comment and not as a council member. So having watched this, knowing that there is still a need for correction in this department, it would be beneficial to have a council member present. This would be a person that we would put forth from this body. They'd serve for 2 years. They would not be a voting member, but they would be there for advice, some accountability, some transparency, and truly much needed guidance. There are 9 sponsors on this substitute. That is not by accident. These individuals understand that this bill makes sense. And today you received several emails from a past employee, from artists that were a part of the recent debacle in support of this bill and having a council member. And at this time, I'd briefly like to read just one of the paragraphs from Art Equity that said, "We need democratic transparency on the Arts Commission. We ask the council to support artists by allowing for an elected official who is connected to the people and familiar with budgets to serve on the Arts Commission. We thank the council for clarifying Metro Arts' purpose to include equity, and we affirm the need to live those words in practice." I think a lot of the complaints that we have heard over this last year have been just utter confusion and not having a person to go to. Issues with legal and finance doesn't make it a safe place to go and ask questions. We are there, and there is a level of impartiality that I think that we are able to offer, and also guidance in terms of a budget process. At the end of the day, we vote on the money that we give them. I think it's important that they are able to ask questions, and right now they can't. So I would ask everyone to support this substitute so that we can move forward and begin the healing. I applaud the work of the board and commission work group, and I look forward to the outcome. But Mr. Rosenberg said it will be weeks before we even get to hear what they're doing. So thank you, Vice Mayor.
Okay. Ms. Welsh, are you seeking to be recognized on the motion to substitute? Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I actually rise in support of the substitute. I agree with my colleague. I think there is a benefit to having a council member on boards and commissions. This could be also a non-voting member. Just tonight, we nominated council members for the Contract and Compliance Board, which is a non-voting member. I think having a council member on, particularly this commission, but on many of these commissions, really helped with keeping the lines of communication open between what is happening on those commissions and bringing that back to the council so that we are better informed and we can make better decisions, particularly commissions that align with our committee structure. It would have helped greatly during what we have gone through with Metro Arts over the past year and a half, had we had someone on the inside constantly being able to bring us up to date as to what was happening, what was being said. And I feel like we probably could have solved some of the problems that we saw a lot more quickly and more efficiently with a lot less rancor, I guess would be the word, had we had that. So I see a council member being a sitting member, not necessarily a voting member on commissions, to be a net positive for the work that the body does. So I stand in support of the substitute and ask my colleagues to vote for it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Welsh. Mr. Parker, you're recognized on the substitute.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Yes, on the substitute. So we've had a lot of discussion about the merits of having a council member on this body. To be honest, I kind of hear both sides on that, and I'm willing to go wherever the body goes on that. I don't feel strongly one way or another on that. What I do feel strongly about that is in this substitute is the 4-meeting requirement for them to update their awards criteria. That's a standard that I don't think we apply to any type of legislation as a council body. And it seems to me, I know that if they don't change it, then it can be reapproved by resolution, I believe the substitute reads. But what I worry that does is it would set up an incentive for the Arts Commission to not update their award criteria when it may be appropriate, because they would then kick off this 4-meeting process, because as it reads, it must be presented at a meeting of the Arts Committee before being filed. And so then it would have to be a 3-reading ordinance, as I understand it, for a total of 4 meetings to approve new award criteria. So that part of this substitute I'm really struggling with. If there's a rationale for that 4-meeting requirement that one of the sponsors can explain, I'd be happy to hear it. But Again, I can go either way on the council member question, but the 4-meeting requirement is really giving me pause with the substitute, so I don't think I can support it today.
Okay, Sponsor Stiles, do you want to respond to Mr. Parker's inquiry just very specifically on that, that 4-meeting frame? Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor and Councilmember Parker. So the intention being there, the resolution, as long as it doesn't change, leaving it as is. My concern is because we are 20 years late on what originally was proposed as a resolution that was supposed to come to us. If something changes and we don't have an opportunity to really ask a lot of questions, I know there's an idea that, oh, if we just throw it in the resolution, we can defer it a couple of meetings. But people pay more attention when we're dealing with bills. When things are changing, I think resolutions are very easy to kind of move through quickly and kind of after the fact say, oh, wait a minute, what was that we just voted on? It's happened before, so I'd rather that not happen while we're getting this department cleaned up, and that was the reason for the bill.
Very briefly, if I may, Vice Mayor.
Yes, yeah, just address your question to me, and I'll put it back to Ms. Stiles if needed.
It's just a comment
Okay.
or a response. I think that the conversation over the last 18 months has sufficiently elevated the issue of arts award criteria to this body and the public at large, to the extent that I don't think we'll be flying through resolutions on consent without sufficient review. And so I think I am comfortable with the resolution and continue to be concerned about the 4-meeting requirement for any change in awards criteria.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Parker. Ms. Evans, are you wanting to speak on the substitute?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So the number one reason why I'm in support of the substitute really is about the notion of adding the council member to this particular commission. And I think the idea of having the work group that is working towards the vision of kind of having this holistic view of like boards and commissions, which I think is a very important goal. I don't think that should stop the opportunity to kind of have a little bit more engagement around a commission where there are clearly problems, have been problems. We were going to be considering a resolution to award a settlement to somebody that was a part of that organization. And so when you think through not only that particular settlement, the settlement of the director, the number of employees who have left the department over time in conjunction and combining the number of newer people to this particular commission and kind of taking even like a higher view, a 30,000-foot view of Metro, there's a lot of parallels between the Arts Commission and Arts Department and also Metro Health. And I think the biggest difference is, you know, there's life or death consequences with Metro Health and there isn't with Metro Arts. And so that is kind of a challenge to me as I consider my personal just interest in the Arts Commission versus kind of the oversight of public health and safety related to Metro Public Health Department. So that's one of the things I'm not really kind of necessarily resolute whether it's a resolution or an ordinance. I think ultimately, you know, the commission has a calendar. They can work in conjunction with whatever that calendaring looks like to make sure that they're achieving their objectives. So this is the hill that I will die on, that the commission needs to have a non-voting council member participate, regardless of whether the work group decides at a later date that they don't. They're undergoing too much change. They're potentially going to be hiring a new director. They need some stability, and we're elected to be, you know, some of the stability for the city. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Porterfield, you're recognized on the substitute.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm standing in opposition to the substitute, and I want to thank Councilwoman Evans for her statements and her passion about this. And I really hear your concern about this. And this is also the hill I'm going to die on, Council Lady. With regards to stability, there has been a lot of change in Metro Arts. We've seen tons of change just since we've been in office. Right now, the previous director is gone. We have an interim director. They're in the process of hiring a new director. We have many commissioners that are no longer on that particular board. We've given money to fund for equity. Many of the employees that were there are no longer there. There are additional supports that we're looking at with regards to boards and commissions. So there are changes that are being put in place so that we can make sure that this does not happen again. Historically, there has been concerns with how there has been funding with Metro Arts. We are putting the things in place so that that does not continue to happen. A council member being on that board does not change that. And I want to be very clear, while I do not believe that we need a council member on the Arts Commission, if that is the will of the body, once we go through the process that we are discussing here and that we're going through, if that's the will of the body, then that's the will of the body. But I'm just asking that colleagues give us the opportunity to actually work through that. Again, when our colleagues ask the administration to opine on this, they have determined that they will opine on this. The council will have the opportunity to weigh in on this as well. So again, I am just asking that we move forward with the commission as is, that we continue to look at the resolutions and just want to push back on us not paying attention to resolutions. We just spent a significant amount of time on a non-binding resolution that we just discussed for I don't know how long we were on that resolution that we just finished passing. So I do think that when we do our due diligence, we do pay attention to resolutions, or at least we should be paying attention to resolutions. Many of us do. So again, I stand in opposition of the substitute that was not moved in two of the committees and that failed the other committee that it was in. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Porterfield. Mr. Cash, on the substitute, sir.
Previous question.
Okay. Mr. Cash has called the previous question. That is a non-debatable motion. Is there a second for the motion to call the previous question? Okay, properly seconded. This requires 2/3 of those voting. We can try it first by voice. So if you support calling the previous question, that means we would immediately move to the vote to substitute. If you want to continue discussion regarding the motion to substitute, you would vote against calling the previous question. Okay, all in favor of the previous question, please say aye. Aye. Those voting no on the previous question? No. Okay, Mr. Clerk, can we open the machine? I'm sorry, I cannot judge 2/3 majority there. All votes are in. Mr. Clerk, please show the vote. Okay, the motion to call the question fails, so we will continue on debate on the motion to substitute. Okay, next, Ms. Sepulveda, you're recognized on the motion to substitute.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm going to be brief, just based off of the substitute, and since the working group keeps coming up, I'm not going to sway you one way or another whether a council member should be on this committee or not. I do want to give a brief update. I am working on a blog post. It should be out tomorrow, giving an update as to where the working group is. It will be giving a draft timeline. It will be also giving a aggregate data as far as the survey that went out to the boards and commissions. We had 230 responses. 51 out of the 70 boards participated, and we are currently working on legislation for the current council members to be non-voting members, to be in compliance with state legislation, because the state does not allow council members to be voting members on our current boards and commissions. So we are about to change that. So even if we do add a council member onto the Arts Commission, they would need to be non-voting members. At our next working group meeting, we do have plans to go through the boards and commissions and figure out which ones we believe need a council member to be on there. And then I was speaking to former council member Rosenberg now at the mayor's office to see if then we would be bringing that to the Rules Committee and going from there to bring it back to the body as to the recommendation from the working group. So that's just a quick update, but that will be out tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Sepulveda. Ms. Evans-Siegel, you are recognized on the substitute, the motion to substitute.
Thank you, Madam President. Apparently, we're all dying on hills tonight. But at least I'm in good company and there's chocolate. So
Not up here, Ms. Evans-Siegel. There's no chocolate up here.
Not up there in the room. It's in
know.
the room.
I mean, it just seems unfair.
I also would I think a lot of us are speaking from personal experience tonight. And so I would just want to add mine to the conversation. I am not going to support the substitute. I served on a board for 5 years before being in this body. And I called people who are actually in the room today when I had questions about things that board was doing, whether it was Oracle or Amazon or another deal that was coming before us. I relied on council members to tell me how they felt and what they were hearing and what their experiences were. And there wasn't a council member on that board, but it never prevented the free flow of information between the board and council. What did prevent the free flow of information was the constant changes that board experienced. When we lost our executive director, when Miss Darby graciously was nominated potentially against her will, but assumed the role admirably to lead our board, which, just to be clear, Metro Legal should not have been doing. When we went 18 months without a director because council took Miss Darby away from us and Metro Legal, and now you too have chocolate, Madam President. And with the study in the works, with everything that is going on, with my experience on that board and what constant change does to these boards, I mean, we're all part-time, but we're not really part-time, but these truly are part-time volunteer jobs. And when you are constantly changing what a board and commission has to do, who's on the board and commission, what they have to do for their resolutions, I think it just creates a level of change that makes all work, frankly, impossible to do. And what I don't want to do is undermine the great work that Arts is now trying to do by changing how they are set up multiple times over the next 6, 12, 18 months. And I also would just say that what we're doing here is we're looking at something that tries to fix something that wasn't done by doing it 4 times over. I personally don't think that you fix something that's not done by doing it 4 times. You just flag it. And as council members, we make sure it gets done. We watch these boards and commissions. We keep up with them. And that's our job. So I do not support the substitute. And frankly, probably not the ordinance either. But
Thank you, Ms. Evans-Siegel. Ms. Vo, you are recognized on the motion to substitute.
Thank you so much, Vice Mayor. I stand in support of the substitution, hearing from my constituents and wanting, when I stand and hear what the community is saying to me, and they do want a council member on there, and I hear both sides of this argument, and serving on the Metro Action Commission with Councilmember Gregg, I feel like there's so much we wouldn't know if we didn't serve on it. So I hear that side, and then I understand, like, talking to other colleagues. It's so much work, and I know we're trying to do what's best. And so for me, just hearing from my constituents and what they want to see, I am standing in support of this substitution.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Vo. Ms. Stiles, you have already spoken on the motion to substitute, and there are other members who have yet to speak. So I'm going to next recognize Mr. Spain. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd just like to hear if the administration has a position on the substitute versus the original bill.
Okay. Mr. Rosenberg, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. Councilmember, we support the Porterfield legislation, which requires the commission to send the arts criteria to council every year for approval. Support Councilmember Suarez's amendment, already on that bill. You know what that does. We're not supportive of the style substitute. As to whether there should be a council member on, really, that's up to this body. The working group itself was kind of keeping away from that. We've been asked to opine on the criteria there. We will, since right now, boards and commissions that have council members on them generally are either required to by state or federal law, are advisory in nature, or have district-specific projects that they consider. So this would fall outside of that, really, and so we're going to talk about the virtues of that and then let council do with it what it would like to. The larger concern is delaying arts grants by 6 to 7 weeks through this 4-meeting process. And like Councilmember Parker mentioned, the unintended consequence of discouraging updates to the criteria. It's concerning. There's no reason to slow down grants that have already clearly been an issue. And we would support voting down the substitute and passing Councilmember Porterfield's legislation. Thank you.
Mr. Spain, does that answer your question?
It does, thank you.
Yep. Okay. Mr. Prepty, can you remind me, Chair, have you already spoken on the substitute, sir? Okay, thank you for clarifying. We've been at it a while, so go ahead, sir.
Yes, quite. I completely understand. Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. A lot's been said, and I'll be relatively brief in my comments. I just want to associate myself with the comments for the honorable member from District 5, Mr. Parker. I agree that something needs to be done with regards to arts. And I think that the idea of having a non-voting council member is definitely meritorious and would help provide good guidance. But I do have issue with the 4-meeting criteria for a lot of reasons that have already been said that I'm associating with. But I also just wanted to pose a quick parliamentary inquiry, which I think I already know the answer to, but just wanted to get confirmation that if everything is approved this evening, that it would not be amendable on 3rd reading. Is that correct?
I believe so, but we'll seek clarification from special counsel. It's on 2nd reading. If it were to pass, it would not be amendable on 3rd.
This is not amendable on 3rd reading.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Cortez on the motion to substitute, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to say I appreciate all my colleagues' comments this evening. And this question is directed towards Ms. Darby. Is there a procedural path forward that we could take the resolution piece of Councilwoman Suarez's amendment and then add the council member from the substitute? Is there a procedural path forward tonight to do that?
I will direct that question to Ms. Darby. Go ahead.
No amendments are required to be filed on the Friday before the council meeting. If this were to pass tonight in the form that it currently is pending with the bill as amended, then, if subsequent piece of legislation could come back to make additional amendments to it with what you're suggesting.
So it would require an entire new piece of legislation that we could not amend next reading, correct?
To amend on 3rd reading, you would need to move to suspend the rules. So you could do that.
Okay.
That is one avenue.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Bradford, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I am standing in opposition of this substitute to kind of add to what was said earlier by my colleague, Councilmember Evan Segal. Not only can these commissioners reach out to us to ask what we're hearing about certain issues, but we also have committees. We have a arts, parks, library, whatever we want to call it this year, committee that these members can come to and address any concerns or questions to this committee made up of multiple council members. And also vice versa, the committee can request for individuals from these commissions to come talk to them and bring some of these issues to us. So I believe there's no need to have a council member sitting on this commission when we have multiple avenues for communication, for collaboration. So again, I am voting against the substitute. I ask my colleagues to do the same.
Okay, Ms. Stiles, you are the last in the queue. If you could briefly on the motion to substitute so that we can proceed, please, ma'am.
Thank you very much. First, I'd like to say the reason why the substitute hadn't come up in some of the committees, I was having to be in two places at one time for one meeting and another one procedurally didn't get a chance to have the conversation. So it's not that it was voted against or not supported, first and foremost. I would like to read another statement from one of the artists that has been impacted over this last year and why they are supportive of having a council member. By including a council member in this capacity, we can ensure that those of us without the resources for lobbyists have a voice in this critical conversation. This inclusion would bring an additional layer of accountability and transparency to the commission, which is currently appointed rather than elected. Having a non-voting council member on the commission would provide a direct line of communication between the community and the decision-making process, promoting a more inclusive and representative approach to arts funding. We are receiving messages, and I feel like I've said this before on previous bills. If the people that have elected us are taking the time to reach out, we do need to listen and take those thoughts into consideration. I understand that there is a work group, and I'm looking forward to the outcome. However, we should not delay the work that is needed in any case, outside of this bill included. And we talked about it a bit with the zero tolerance resolution. Sometimes work needs to happen now. When there's a problem, it's now. It's not in several weeks. As Mr. Rosenberg said yesterday, weeks will get to that. We have put this off now for 3 months. There have been all kinds of delay tactics. I think tonight is the night that we can make a decision. I think we should take into consideration what we have heard from constituents and put a member of this body on this commission. To Mr. Councilmember Cortez's question about wanting to amend this. If that is something in the future that can be done, so let's do that. I don't think we should let that one piece hinder us. If we were able to amend it tonight, I would be happy to do so. But having a member from this body on the commission really is needed. And for those of you that haven't watched and haven't been, and I appreciate Councilmember Evan Segal sharing her experience, but she also has an outgoing personality and a comfort. I've never gotten a phone call from her, but some commissioners are intimidated by us. So picking up a phone and calling is a daunting task. So if they can work with us side by side, it would make a difference. So I am asking for your support on the substitute. Greatly appreciative. Thank you so very much.
Okay.
And could we do a roll call, Vice Mayor?
Sure. So Ms. Stiles has requested a roll call on the motion to substitute. Are there seconds? There need to be 3, so thirds. Okay. Raise hands. Okay. All right, so there will be a roll call. That said, there are still folks in the queue on the motion to substitute. We have been talking about this for a long time, colleagues, so let's try to move to the vote. Go ahead, Ms. Porterfield.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I will be extremely brief. I just wanted to clarify for the record, in the Parks and Arts and Libraries Committee, the chair did give the opportunity for anyone who wanted to be recognized to speak. The sponsor did not request to be recognized, so the sponsor did not request to speak to move that amendment. That was not an oversight. The sponsor did not request to speak. With regards to the delay, we have been doing things. So it's not that we have not done anything. We have talked about several of the things that we have been doing. So there is movement that is being made. Lastly, I want to say these aren't delay tactics to try to do something nefarious. This is in good faith trying to pass good legislation. 4 meetings is bad legislation. Nothing about that is equitable. When that is the only board or commission, that is the only thing that we have at Metro that will require 4 meetings to come before a committee and then go through 3 readings. Nothing else does that. And if we're talking about equity and removing barriers and making things more equitable, we don't put additional barriers in. So again, I'm going to ask people to vote the substitute down. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Allen on the motion to substitute.
This is a procedural question.
Yes.
Is it possible to move the amendment again after if we voted the substitute on, could we then move Councilmember Suarez's amendment again and supersede that piece of it?
Ms. Darby, go ahead.
Unfortunately, the way that the amendment is drafted, it's in stall, it's strike-throughs and underlines as required by our rules. And the way it's drafted, it does not address the language that is would be added by the substitute. So it would be incongruent to do that.
Okay, but for point of clarification, if the substitute were to fail, you would be back then on the motion to approve as amended. Ms. Hancock, you are recognized on the motion to substitute.
Could I ask this question to Ms. Darby?
You can address the question to me and I can, yeah.
This is the Metropolitan Nashville Arts Commission, so it's an open meeting. Is that correct?
Ms. Darby, yes. I mean,
their meetings would be required to be open per the Open Meetings Act.
So any council member could attend their meetings and not vote, right?
Ms. Darby?
As they are open meetings, any council member could attend those meetings.
Okay, so I don't see any need in adding the delays that we were talking about of 4 additional meetings or adding a council member when they can attend already and not vote. So I'm going to oppose that substitute. Thank you very much.
Okay, we are going to move Ms. Stiles to the vote, okay? You have been recognized more than once on the substitute, and so we need to keep this moving along. So you have requested a roll call vote on the motion to substitute. So Mr. Clerk, if you would please load the vote for the motion to substitute. All votes are in. Mr. Clerk, please show the vote. Okay, the motion to substitute fails. So we are now back on the motion to approve as amended. Is there any discussion on the motion to approve as amended? Ms. Stiles, do you seek to be recognized on that motion? No? Okay. Anyone else? All right. Let's move, please, to the vote. Let's see. So we are on second reading. I guess we can, we're going to be able to do this by voice. Okay. All right, all in favor of the motion to approve on second reading as amended, please say aye. Aye. All in opposition to the motion to amend on second reading? Okay, the motion to approve on second reading prevails. Okay, so this has passed second reading as amended. Okay, next is agenda item 35. Ordinance BL 2024-509, sponsors Evans, Siegel, Swara, Welsh, Nash, Ewing, Coupin, Allen, Toombs, Spain, Huffman, Lee, Benedict, Hill, Gadd, Weiner, Gregg, and Ellis. This is an ordinance amending chapters 10.24 and 6.64 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws to restrict the solicitation or distribution of handbills on private property to daylight hours. Sponsor Evans, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, Public Health and Safety, recommended approval, 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Actually, I take that back. Sorry, 9 in favor,
Okay.
0 against, 0 not voting.
Got it. Chair Hill, for the report of government operations and regulations, please, ma'am.
Government ops heard this, 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 non-voting.
Okay, thank you. So it's back to you, Sponsor Evans, for a motion.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to move approval.
Is there a second? Okay, back to you, ma'am.
Thank you. So this item on our agenda is part of a package of legislation. And so this particular legislation is going to restrict the placement of handbills between the hour after 7 p.m. at night. And so that will change to not allow commercial handbills after 7 p.m.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. There is a motion to approve, properly seconded. Is there any discussion on this bill? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Anybody no? Okay, that's 1. Any abstaining? Okay, Mr. Prep-T. So we are on second reading. So Ms. Darby, clerk, if you would please note, Mr. Cap is a no, Mr. Prep-T is an abstention. We can do that on a second reading. Okay. So this has passed second of 3 readings. Next is agenda item 36, ordinance BL 2024-510, sponsors Prep-T, Evans, Siegel, Swara, Welsh, Nash, Ewing, Coupin, Toombs, Spain, Huffman, Lee, Benedict, Hill, Vo, Gadd, Weiner, Gregg, Stiles, and Ellis. This is an ordinance amending section 11.12.040 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws regarding exemptions for wearing disguises in public places. Sponsor Prep-T, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Committee reports.
Okay, Public Health and Safety Chair Evans, you're recognized.
Public Health and Safety recommended approval, 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, back to you, Mr. Prep-T, for a motion.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I move passage with brief comment.
Is there a second? Okay, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. So this bill is simply just a cleanup of current Metro code that is in place. We already have a code that prohibits the wearing of masks in public spaces. The code currently exempts Halloween masks and other costumes like that. Essentially, what this bill does is simply provide for the ability of people to wear masks for medical reasons, as well as for sincerely held religious beliefs. And so with that, Madam Vice Mayor, I renew my motion.
Thank you, Chair Prep-T. So we are on to discussion. Ms. Porterfield, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you to the sponsor for bringing this. I just had a very quick question for legal. How is it going to be determined if someone is wearing something for like religious reasons? I do agree that we need exemptions for religious reasons and for medical reasons. So thank you again for bringing this. I just had heard some concerns from some constituents about making sure that it's not going to be up to like an individual's discretion of when they believe someone is wearing it for a religious reason or not. So if we could just address that, please.
Director Dietz, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and thank you, Council Member, for the question. if this ordinance is passed, amending the existing law, I'm confident the police will do some extensive training on it. They likely will consult with us about the steps and procedures. I believe in most cases, it will be very apparent if someone is wearing a mask based on a sincerely held religious belief. I suspect that there won't be a lot of argument about that, but it's also conceivable that there may be a case where someone is using that as a pretense to hide their face. So it will require some training by the police.
Ms. Porterfield, does that cover your question? Okay. Is there any further discussion on this bill on second reading? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay. This has passed the second of three readings. Next is Agenda Item 37, Ordinance BL 2024-511, sponsor Evan Siegel, Parker, Evans, Swara, Welsh, Nash, Ewing, Coopin, Toombs, Spain, Lee, Benedict, Hill, Vo, Gad, Wiener, Gregg, Stiles, and Huffman. This is an ordinance amending Chapter 11.12 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws to create buffer zones to maintain public safety around public buildings and parking lots. Sponsor Evan Siegel, you are recognized.
Thank you. Committee reports, please.
Okay. Let's see. First, to Chair Evans for the report of public health and safety, please.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We considered this item and recommended approval. 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, 9 in favor, 0 against. Okay, and Chair Parker for the report of Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. Sir, go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Transportation and Infrastructure considered 511, recommended approval, 7 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting.
Okay, so it's back to you, Sponsor Evan Siegel, for a motion on your bill.
Thank you. Move to approve with a brief comment.
Is there a second? Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. This bill, while the caption is technically correct, is I think a little confusing. This is fundamentally an open government bill. What we know is that government doesn't function when people prevent access to it, and government cannot protect people's rights when it is not open. We have seen that at the federal level. We've seen this building attacked as well. We need to make sure that we're able to do our jobs, that people are able to come hear us, that people are able to access the courts, that folks who want to find records are able to get to those, and for our health facilities, that are Metro Health facilities, that those who need access to them and get to them. All this does is prevent somebody from intentionally preventing somebody from accessing those places. It does not prevent folks from peaceably assembling and otherwise using public spaces for demonstration. It's just, we have to make sure that if you need to get to Metro General, you can get in Metro General and somebody can't stop you.
Okay, thank you for that clarification and explanation. Is there any additional discussion on this bill on second reading? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay, I see one abstention, Mr. Cortez, because it is on second reading. Mr. Clerk, if you will make a note of it. So this has passed the second of three readings. Okay, next is Agenda Item 38, Ordinance BL 2024-512, sponsors Toombs, Parker, Evans, Swara, Welsh, Nash, Coopin, Spain, Huffman, Lee, Benedict, Hill, Ewing, Vo, Gad, Wiener, Gregg, and Stiles. This is an ordinance amending Section 12.12.170 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws to prohibit the placement of unauthorized signs, signals, or markings over a highway. Ms. Toombs, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Committee report.
Okay, let's go first to Public Health and Safety. Chair Evans.
We recommended approval of this one. 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, Chair Parker for the report of Transportation Infrastructure.
We considered 512, recommended approval, 7 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, so it is back to you, Ms. Toombs, for a motion on your bill.
Move for approval.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, there's a motion to approve, properly seconded. Is there any discussion on this bill? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no? Okay, Mr. Cap, you'll be so recorded. Any abstaining? Okay, no abstentions. Okay, again, this is on the second of 3 readings. Okay. Right now, we are moving into bills on 3rd reading that were not on consent. First is Agenda Item 53, sponsor Rutherford. This is Ordinance BL 2024-484. This is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, by changing from AR2A to SP zoning for property located at 7088 Burkett Road, approximately 550 feet east of Old Burkett Road, 11.63 acres, to permit up to 119 multifamily residential units. Mr. Rutherford, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. Do we want to take the companion bill at the same time?
Yeah, so we have a companion bill related to the materials. The amendment only needs to go on the first bill, 484. So do we want to take that up first? Okay, so Ms. Darby is counseling that we're going to take this up first to put the amendment on, and then we can do a consolidated or combined motion to approve. So once we get the amendment on, then you can amend your motion for both bills. Got it?
Got it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rutherford. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Committee reports, please.
Okay, Planning and Zoning, Chair Gamble, you're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Planning and Zoning recommended approval of the bill as amended, 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, let's see. Okay, it's back to you, Mr. Rutherford.
I move approval to get to the amendment.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, it's before us. Go ahead.
I move approval of the amendment.
Okay, is there any discussion on the amendment? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, the amendment is on 484, and so if you want to amend now your motion to have it all together, Mr. Rutherford?
I move approval as amended and add the companion for approval as well.
Okay, and the companion bill is Agenda Item 54. That's Ordinance BL 2024-485. It's pertaining to the materials on Bill 484. Okay, is there any discussion on the consolidated motion for both of these bills? The first among them as amended. Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, both these bills have passed their 3rd and final reading, Mr.
Thank you.
Rutherford. Yes, okay. Agenda Item 57, Ordinance BL 2024-490, sponsor Stiles, and I believe Ms. Gamble had signed on in committee. An ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County. A request to amend a specific plan for properties located at 12,610 Old Hickory Boulevard and Old Hickory Boulevard unnumbered, approximately 655 feet east of Hobson Pike, zoned SP. This is 9.38 acres to permit warehouse and office uses. Ms. Stiles, you are recognized.
I'd like to move for approval, please, Vice Mayor.
Okay. Let's first ask for your committee reports, please. Okay. Chair Gamble, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Planning and Zoning considered the substitute on this bill and recommended approval. 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting, and recommended approval of the bill as substituted. 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay. All right. So now it's back to you, Chair Stiles, for a motion to get this in front of us.
I'd like to move for approval. What am I doing?
Okay. Ms. Stiles has moved approval. Is there a second? Okay, so now, Ms. Stiles, if you would like to move your substitute, you may do so.
Yes, I would like to move the substitute please.
Okay, Ms. Stiles has moved the substitute. Is there a second to the motion to substitute? Okay, is there any discussion, or would you like to provide an explanation on your substitute, Ms. Stiles? No, okay. Any discussion, colleagues, on the motion to substitute? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the substitute, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, now, Ms. Stiles, we need a motion on your bill as substituted, please.
Motion to move the bill as substituted, please.
Is there a second? Okay, properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the bill as substituted to approve? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, this bill has passed. Pardon? Okay, it's on third. Okay, just a singular abstention on third. We'll just, Mr. Clerk, if you would please record that for Ms. Lee. Okay, so this bill has passed its third and final reading as substituted. Agenda item 58, ordinance BL 2024-491, sponsor Taylor. This is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, by changing from R6A to RS5 zoning for properties located at 1712A and B and C Arthur Avenue, approximately 249 feet west of Jane Street, 0.17 acres, and located within the detached accessory dwelling unit overlay district. Let's see, is anybody gonna carry this for Mr. Taylor? Okay. Okay, so it, yeah, Ms. Gamble, if you can update us on this. I see that there was a one meeting deferral.
Yes, and I'll sign on if needed. We recommended a 1 meeting deferral, 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, so Mr. Taylor not present for purposes of a one meeting deferral. Mr. Clerk, can you sign on Chair Gamble, please? Okay, that said, with the sponsor, does this conform to Rule 8.1 for the one meeting deferral, given that Mr. Taylor was not present? Okay, already that conforms. It is deferred one meeting. Okay. All right, next is agenda item 68, ordinance BL 2024-504, sponsor GAD. This is an ordinance repealing resolution number 2024-548, which amended ordinance BL 2019-18 to acquire permanent and temporary easements through negotiation, condemnation, and acceptance for the West End Place Stormwater Improvement Project for 5 properties located on West End Place and Central Avenue. Ms. Gadd, you are recognized.
Thank you so much, Vice Mayor. I would like to ask for a 2-meeting deferral.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, properly moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion for a 2-meeting deferral by the sponsor? Seeing none, all in favor of a 2-meeting deferral, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, this is deferred for 2 meetings. That concludes our agenda, colleagues. Our next council meeting will be on Tuesday, October the 1st. Is there a motion? Ooh, do we have a, okay, point of personal privilege. Ms. Hill, go ahead.
If you don't mind, my daughter just texted and said that she was watching and asked me to please tell every single person in the room. She said, thank you.
That's very lovely. Thank you for sharing. We send her all our best and our best wishes. Is there a motion to adjourn? Okay, we are adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.